Ladies and gentlemen, let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Brought to you by Guaranteed Foods, official sponsor of Family Mealtime. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, a Wednesday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. We've got you the next 4 hours. Number of things we're going to get into today. We'll talk some NFL football. We'll talk some college football. We'll talk some Major League Baseball playoffs as they get back underway today, 4 o'clock, with a really fun one. 4 o'clock is the one that I am waiting for. 4:07 for Phillies and Braves in Philadelphia. Game number 3. Swing game, especially in a 5-game series. So that gets underway today. The Twins and Astros, with the Minnesota Twins at home, down 2-1. And the Dodgers and Diamondbacks, that game heading now to Arizona, with the Diamondbacks up 2-0 on the Dodgers. That game will be on Sports Radio 810 WHB coming up tonight. The National League Divisional Series, Dodgers Diamondbacks tonight at 8 o'clock. That is after Lance Leipold and Hawk Talk coming up at 6 o'clock, and then a little home stretch with Sterling Holmes at 7, leading into that what could be final game of the National League Divisional Series with Dodgers and Diamondbacks. And we'll see what happens with those particular games. We will talk with Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. We'll hang out with her, get her thoughts on this Chiefs team, sitting 4-1 right now atop the AFC standings. Number 1 seed in the AFC, getting ready for the Denver Broncos coming up tomorrow night at Arrowhead Stadium. A little Thursday night football, and 10.5-point favorites are the Chiefs. That line has not moved since we saw that come out a couple of days ago, back on Monday when we first started tracking. So 10.5 and the total 48 for the Chiefs. So clearly this is going to be 38-10 according to Vegas. So looks great. Sounds fun. That's at least what I think. But we'll find out. It would be 16 in a row. They've gotten to 15 in a row. They've gotten to Patrick Mahomes in a row. Do they get to Len Dawson in a row?
I think we might get to Sky Moore in a row before too long.
Wow, Derek Thomas in a row. This is unbelievable. 50 years, a lifetime. I could have done that.
Colin Saunders in a row? Holy smokes.
Could have done that maybe last week, the 50 years, a lifetime. Not this week, not right now. So we will talk with Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. And then coming up at noon, we'll talk with James Palmer from the NFL Network. He will be here in Kansas City out at Arrowhead Stadium for the Chiefs and the Broncos. And we'll talk with him about this Chiefs team, about the NFL overall, this stretch, this streak that's going on, and how improbable that is because, it hasn't been all dominant wins. I mean, 4 of the last 5 games have been one-score games between the Chiefs and the Broncos. 5 of the last 7, the Chiefs have failed to get into the 30-point range against the Broncos. That's Vic Fangio.
Yep.
There again. So, I mean,
not walking through that door.
Yeah. So we'll see, what happens with that. So this Broncos Chiefs matchup, and then also one of the things I want to talk to James Palmer about is, at NFL Network they've got a number of buyers and sellers and trade deadline stuff, and that's still it's less than 3 weeks. It's 3 weeks from yesterday is the trade deadline, October 31st. So that Tuesday. And, just a number of teams that have been talked about. Is Kirk Cousins going to be moved? What's going on with the Jets, the Bears? Probably not the Bengals with the way they played against the Cardinals, and Joe Burrow looked healthier in that game. And turns out Jamar Chase is always open. Whether T. Higgins is out there or not, he was always open in that game. And, just maybe the expectation of this trade deadline because – the last couple of years, there's been some fun movement. We talk about the Major League Baseball trade deadline, and there's so many different players changing teams and teams strengthening and selling off veterans that are rental contracts. And the NFL trade deadline typically just comes and goes, with not much of discussion or reporting or coverage. In the last couple of years, that hasn't been the case. Back in 2021, the Rams traded for Von Miller. Chiefs traded for Melvin Ingram. Panthers traded for Stephon Gilmore. Saints traded for Mark Ingram in that 2021. And then last year, you had Hawkinson go from Detroit to Minnesota. You had Roquan Smith go to the Ravens. Chase Claypool go to the Bears. And then the Dolphins went and got Bradley Chubb and Jeff Wilson.
Wow.
At the trade deadline. So the last 2 years we've seen Roquan Smith, Bradley Chubb, Von Miller, Stephon Gilmore, Melvin Ingram, TJ Hawkinson all traded at the trade deadline. Like, it has been something to actually watch now and pay attention to players that might be moved. And so that certainly adds intrigue. It makes it a little more fun as we're leading into it. Van Jefferson has already been traded. He moved from L.A. to Atlanta, and he's now a part of the Falcons. And they did the whole, move up to the exchange a 6th and a 7th for the player. That seems to be the in vogue thing to do. And one of the things that I'm curious to pick James Palmer's brain about is, now that it's a longer season, like, is the NFL going to at least address or talk about moving the trade deadline back a couple of weeks? And the example I want to use with him is, going back and remembering that, oh, that's right, TJ Hawkinson got traded at the trade deadline. I completely forgot about that until I was looking at it last night. Yeah. Completely forgot. I'm like, oh, duh. That's right. Because the Lions were 1-6 at the trade deadline. They're 12-3 since.
That's wild.
They have won 12 of 15 games since. If that was 2 weeks later, would Hawkinson be on the Vikings, or would he be on the Detroit Lions? Would they have drafted Sam Laporta, or would they have taken somebody else with that pick? Are the Lions a better team with Hawkinson and another pick than what they got for Hawkinson and Sam Laporta and all that? And I don't know the particulars of that trade or whatever, but they've gone 12-3 since. Like, even a couple of weeks later, if they're 3-6, do they still make that move? Maybe they do. I don't know. But, like, the Bengals might be 2-5 at the trade deadline, as opposed to a couple of weeks later, maybe they're 4-5 and going, hey, look at this division. This division's all 500. Everybody's battling. It's Pittsburgh, beats the Ravens in a game, and Baltimore had a chance to just take control of that division to be 4-1 with 4 wins on the road in division. 4 road wins, or 3 of 4 road wins. They would have a road win against every divisional opponent. I guess 4 road wins would be pretty tough with 4 teams. That'd be really difficult. Good for them.
The Lions in years past definitely beat themselves.
That's true. But
didn't beat anybody else.
Yes, but the Ravens would have had road wins against every other team in the division if they beat the Steelers over the weekend. They didn't. But that now, the leader's 3-2, and the Bengals are now 2-3. They're a game back all of a sudden in that division. So things start to change, and I don't know if it's being talked about or not, but I do wonder with the longer season, and if they want to go to 18 games eventually, like, you're going to have to move this thing back a little bit later just to have teams get a better idea of, are we selling? Are we tanking? Are we buying? Are we standing still? What are we doing?
Did you suffer a big injury in Week 8 that you would like to be able to patch up with some? If the Jets had Aaron Rodgers right now, and it was Vera Tucker that lost an Achilles, right? Mm-hmm. It's a couple of horrible Achilles injuries for the Jets. If they have Aaron Rodgers and they're a 4-win team right now, they're probably on the market of, we got to get another stopgap offensive lineman to help try to keep Aaron Rodgers upright. I can't take you all the way to the end of the TJ Hawkinson trade, but I can take you to 2 interesting points on it.
Yes.
Here, this is going to sound like nonsense until I say the names involved. So TJ Hawkinson was traded by the Lions along with a 2023 4th-round pick.
Okay.
119 overall, subsequently traded Shamari Connor.
Oh, wow.
And a conditional 2024 pick, 4th or 5th rounder, that with Hawkinson to the Vikings in return for a 2023 2nd-round pick, 55th overall, subsequently traded Rashee Rice, and a 2024 3rd-round pick that they'll have, obviously, next year. I do not remember how many times that pick changed hands or why it did.
The Chiefs got 2 picks out of that Lions and Bears.
The Chiefs got
Lions and
Vikings.
And Vikings trade.
The Chiefs got 1 pick originally from the Lions and 1 pick from the Vikings that turned into Shamari Connor and Rashee Rice. I don't know.
Amazing.
I don't know why or how exactly that happened. But I was just scrolling down.
Who did the Lions take with their?
Well, that's
their draft picks they got for the second round pick they got for T.J. Hawkinson.
Well, that's what I'm not. That's what I'm not sure about because that's what I'm gonna have to figure out what all shook out there.
Doesn't really matter.
It's kind of fun. I like playing that game because
I do too.
Are the Lions glad they don't have the highest paid tight end in football?
Right.
Who could not bring in 2 or 3 high point catches he should have made against the Chiefs on Sunday? They might be happy with Sam Laporta and his cap hit. Like it's interesting. The other thing that the NBA is so good at that I think the NFL has just these last couple of years just got a little taste of is, oh man, people love trade deadlines. People love when big players move. The Aaron Rodgers offseason saga obviously wasn't a deadline deal, but it kept the NFL front and center all offseason. Like there was so much drama around that. I think it would be good for good teams who can acquire pieces. It would be good for bad teams who are looking to rebuild more confidently on week 8, week 10. And it would be good for the NFL to have another level of something you can talk about on the studio show. Can you believe Kirk Cousins waived his no-trade clause, and now he's going to go play 8 games in New York and try to make that a play? 8 games in New England.
Yeah.
How about that? Come on. Like, that would be a blast. And so I think we're, like you've laid out, we're tiptoeing that direction. I hope the NFL embraces it.
The team to watch, though, I would say, is the Buffalo Bills because they've lost Tre'Davious White and Matt Milano the last 2 weeks. I mean, it's been brutal for them. They were on the cusp of finally getting Von Miller back to go with that defense, and then Tre'Davious White to an Achilles injury, and then Matt Milano to the leg injury. And now, like, what does Buffalo do? Like, Matt Milano is a freaking stud. I mean, that is a huge piece gone. Those Bills linebackers of Edmonds and Milano was a great tandem. Right now, the Bills have neither. Edmonds is somewhere else, and Matt Milano's on IR. Like that's something that I do wonder. Do the Bills look at it and go, what the salary cap implications are moving forward and things like that? The window right now, how good the team is. Do they start to trade some valuable resources in the next couple of drafts so that they can supplement and fill holes that have opened up because of untimely and unfortunate injuries that happened throughout the season? That's a rough spot for the Bills to be in right now to figure out what to do. Do we salvage some of the future to save this season, or do we just simply go through and say, can we tread water and can we win a Super Bowl without Tre'Davious White and Matt Milano and hopefully no other injuries happen and an older Von Miller? Can we still do that, or do we have to go out and make some moves like the Dolphins got Bradley Chubb and gave up a first rounder? Do the Bills do that? That's going to be fascinating to see the next 3 weeks because, they're one of the best teams in the AFC. And they're a lesser version of themselves 2 weeks later than they were, 14 days ago.
And right now, their Band-Aid is almost 36-year-old Josh Norman. It signed him to the practice squad, and it's like, okay, here's something. I understand why you would do that again, with the NBA comparison, because you don't want it to go fully that direction, because in the NBA you will have teams who are trading all their first-round picks for the rest of time. My Phoenix Suns do not have their own first-round pick until like 2032. That's not even an exaggeration. It's like literally that far out.
Which is ridiculous. When the Broncos will beat the Chiefs. What happens first?
If even. The Suns make their own first-round pick. But I guess they couldn't trade one because of the alternate year rule. You get it. But you don't want to go that full extreme, nor do you want to have teams who are openly tanking. If you start, again, if you're the Panthers right now, I kind of thought they might be able to make some noise in that division. You get a good year from Frank Reich, whatever. Maybe Bryce Young's ready for that. Well, they're not, and they're not, and they're not. You don't want to see them find you don't want Brian Burns to end up, again, he actually would be a good example.
He may end up in Buffalo.
You don't want it to be Brian Burns and your next 3 stars to where you're all of a sudden the Panthers have 3 first-round picks this year and are completely non-competitive for the next 3 years even. But I think the NFL is built in a way where that can't really happen. The reason that first-round picks in the NBA get sloughed around the way they do is because if you're picking outside of the top 10...
What's the point?
It's a crapshoot.
Yeah, absolutely.
You might get Jokic in the 20s, you might get Booker in the teens, but you want Wemby at 1. Like, you're playing the lottery. The NFL doesn't have that, so those picks are still really valuable. I really still do like the way that teams are going to fall off naturally. The contenders are going to be narrowed in late November regardless. So go ahead. It's okay if we all know the Cardinals aren't trying to win. We knew that coming into the year. And they cut Colt McCoy. Like, this is this was a team not trying to be competitive on a week-to-week basis that beat the Cowboys. That's the NFL. That's always going to be there. I don't think we're going to get to tank territory if we do move the trade deadline back a little.
And the great thing about the Chiefs is that, after tomorrow night, they should be 5-1 in their first 6 games. They should have a top 10 defense in the NFL by almost every measure. And they will be making a pretty sweet acquisition of acquiring Charles Omenihu from the suspended list. And they don't have to give anything up. In fact, they got stuff back, which was some salary cap relief from Charles Omenihu. So the Chiefs continue to be in a good spot. Attrition matters throughout the season, and health matters always throughout the season. And so that's something we'll continue to keep an eye on. But these other teams that are losing players, the Chiefs are adding resources for the Chargers next week. I mean, that first game for Charles Omenihu is going to be against the Chargers, and that offense with Justin Herbert and Kellen Moore is starting to come together. And not having Mike Williams is a pretty big deal. Not having Austin Eckler is a pretty big deal. And we'll see when Austin Eckler gets back. But Mike Williams, not was Austin Eckler back this weekend?
No. I think the word was that he was going to play this week. Are they Monday
They're
night?
Monday night, yeah.
I think that's what it was because I saw it and was like, does that mean I got to put him in my fantasy lineup for a Sunday that I don't know?
That's a tough one because it's Monday night when you got a question and a player like Eckler that if he's going to play, you better play him. Yeah. Those are the worst, man. You'd rather have that on a Thursday night than a Monday night.
That's the pickup, the backup whose name currently escapes me. It's not still Josh Kelly, is it? It's still Josh Kelly? All right, good for him.
Yeah, it's still Joshua Kelly.
He hasn't made enough of an impact for me to be that confident he was still a Charger. They'd like to have Austin Eckler back.
Yes, that's right. But the Chiefs will get reinforcements on their defensive line. And if that front four starts to put more pressure on the quarterback without having to blitz with Spagnuolo, the defense becomes even better, and it gives a little bit more time for the offense to come around, to start to figure some things out, and to get more consistent week in and week out. They had the stretch of 10 straight series scoring from the Chicago Bears in the 7 series Patrick Mahomes was in for, and then the first 3 series against the Jets. They had 10 straight series where they scored. It's been pretty damn inconsistent since then. It was inconsistent before that. So, they've got some stretches where they can put some good football together and they can get in a rhythm. It's also a team that's still adding in players, some newcomers, some younger guys. And so you're going to have some inconsistencies. This feels like the offense is Spags and the defense is the Chiefs' offense. It's switched a little bit. But as I said yesterday, if you're going to slow down the Chiefs' offense, you better get them now. Because I do think this offense and these wide receivers are going to start coming on. And I think Rashee Rice is close to a breakout game. And maybe it happens tomorrow night because it's the Broncos. Maybe it happens against the Chargers because you got to score and back and forth. But I think we're getting closer to a Rashee Rice breakout game. And when that happens and Rashee Rice starts getting confident, that's a guy who's really skilled and who was really productive in college. He's used to being a go-to guy. He's used to being a guy that can catch, 10 footballs a game and pick up yards after catch. So, and Justin Ross, clearly they're starting to use him a little bit more in packages because they know his skill set. So it'll be interesting to see as this thing goes along. And if the Chiefs might be interested in anybody, because they've made a couple of moves. They had
that Melvin Ingram deal.
Melvin Ingram, and then 2019 they traded for Suggs.
Wow.
Suggs in 2019.
What did they give up for Terrell Suggs? He wasn't just a free agent? You could 100% be right. I did not remember that being a trade. I honestly hadn't thought about Terrell Suggs in a minute.
Yeah, well, you should. He's got a Super Bowl ring with the Chiefs.
Damn right. I love Terrell Suggs.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't it a waiver claim because we got him before the Ravens?
Right.
That is right.
They didn't trade for him. It was a waiver claim. That's right, because it was losing that game. They got... Well done, Dylan. Dylan's memory is so much better than mine.
Well, the problem is his brain is
sport and specific topic.
His brain is football shaped in there. He's like, "Hey Arnold," but just all internal.
Right. It was a waiver claim for Terrell Suggs. That's great. That's very good. But they did trade for Melvin Ingram. I do know that.
That they definitely did. Because I was like, well, you could have signed him without a pick and before the season. It's like, it worked out great. So
Wisniewski, did they trade for him or they pick up Wisniewski in 2019?
Boy, Stefan Wisniewski was a dog.
Yeah, because both of those were pretty big. Pennell. That was a pickup.
Pennell.
Suggs, Wisniewski, and Pennell. That 2019 season, that Brett Veach had to play the waiver wire, whether it be trades.
I think they just scooped up Wisniewski at some point, it looks like.
I think all 3 of those were just scooped up, right?
I think so.
Found waiver wire or tryouts.
Remember Colecchio Semele?
I do, KO.
That dude, man. That dude tore both. Was it both ACLs on the same play?
Tore both ACLs on the same
knees.
play after the Chiefs scored a touchdown in which he was called for a BS holding penalty.
Oh, you're right.
And then the next play, he tore both of his knees on the same play.
The refs are always out to get the Chiefs.
Out to get the Chiefs. They KO'd how good that offensive line could have been that year.
Also,
KO.
do you remember what I think a month after surgery? Did you see the video from Kelechi Osemele? This will live in my head forever. This is a core memory of Kelechi Osemele wearing the 2 biggest knee braces you've ever seen. Not long after surgery, biggest knee braces you've ever seen. Laying on the bench with a couple of huge ass dumbbells, just chucking weight, just throwing weight. With a couple of ACLs that were nowhere near ready for physical
since?
work. I don't know,
I
man.
liked KO, man.
I thought he was fabulous.
Yes, I really
He's
liked him.
exactly the. He
was Trey Smith.
I was gonna say here, Trey Smith
Beat ya.
reminds me of him a little bit.
Beat ya.
I didn't want to get the order of it wrong, but I was gonna say honestly, he's got that. He's what you want a guard to be, which is nasty and a pancaker.
He was a Richard on the field. He was an
was.
absolute Richard. That it's like, dude, that was kind of unnecessary. Like you didn't have to jump at the guy and toss him 10 yards back like that. Come on, you blocked him. You didn't have to. That guy's got a family.
He has a family who is going to see this. He's trying to make a living. You blocked him. You didn't have to embarrass him.
Taylor Swift was in attendance. You don't have to do that to him. All right. All right. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. I do want to talk a little Major League Baseball with the playoffs going on with the Rangers and just whether it's fickle or if it's finding something or just some little thing that you start to believe in, or you have this sort of mantra by a team in a clubhouse, and how far that can go. I want to talk about that, and then the Braves. Boy, this might be another day that we've used the Icarus, the Braves in their clubhouse after the game on Tuesday night. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We will talk with Cynthia Freeland coming up at 11 o'clock, and then James Palmer coming up at noon, both from the NFL Network. Cynthia Freeland, analytics expert from the NFL Network. Talk some NFL football, talk some Chiefs with them. 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us today. We got some Major League Baseball going on this afternoon on into tonight with the NLDS Dodgers and Diamondbacks wrapping up the 3 games. You can hear that right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, getting underway right around 8:07. And the interesting thing, a number of interesting things. Certainly a series that are still going on with the 4:07 start on TBS with Braves and Phillies. But the Rangers, the postseason is just so fascinating that the 2 best teams in the American League, the Rays and the Orioles, the Rangers go 5-0 against those teams. Heading into the postseason, the Rangers were 18-23 down the stretch and lost 3 of 4 to the Mariners with the American League West on the line. They were essentially playing playoff baseball the last 4 games. They lost 3 of 4 games, and they lost the tiebreaker to the Astros. All they had to do was split with the Mariners, win 2 of 4, and they won the division, and they did not have to play in the wild card round against the Rays. And they couldn't do it. They went 18-23, and their pitchers struggled down the stretch. Eovaldi, and they've had injuries, and the offense was slumping. And then they get into the postseason, and they sweep the Rays, winning 11-1 in the 2 games. They sweep the Orioles, winning 21-11 in the 3 games, outscoring in those 5 games against the teams with the 2 best records, 32-12, with 8 of those coming in the same game. The other 4 games, they've given up 4 total runs. It's a bullpen that was struggling, a pitching staff that was injured and tired, and now the team looks unbeatable. Is it because they're listening to Creed? But in the 5th inning last night, the entire freaking crowd is singing, "Can you take me higher?" The whole stadium is blaring Creed while they are smoking. Who were they playing? I can't even now remember. The
Baltimore?
Yeah, the Orioles.
Yeah, okay,
Jesus,
yeah.
I was just talking about it.
I thought you were being more specific. Like, well, clearly you remember they're talking
while
playing the
they were
Orioles.
smoking the Orioles and
Yes.
up 6-0 with Eovaldi on the mound, and they're just rocking out to Creed.
Ripping Creed.
And this team has gone from they can't figure it out to, are they going to win the World Series?
Yeah.
First ALCS in 12 years for the Rangers, chanting "We want Houston" at the end of that game for the Rangers.
Rules, by the way.
Totally.
That you don't get moments like that in baseball very often. We want Bama
Totally.
doesn't usually show up. I love that bleep.
And it's just crazy because the Orioles playing such good baseball down the stretch. And then 3 and done. Rangers sucked. The Royals had a better record in their final 40 games than the Rangers did.
And their final 40 games?
I'd have to go back and look at the
Okay,
exact,
you said
but it
that
was-
confidently enough. Like I
It was the
believe
last
you.
month and a week or so. I'll go back and look at these specifics. But again,
I'll get the month at least.
the Rangers were 18-23 in their last, 41 games or so. 18-23, 5 games under 500. And I don't know that they're going to be the favorite against the Astros, but they're getting Max Scherzer and Gray back for the ALCS. I mean, by sweeping the Orioles, Max Scherzer now can throw the simulated game today and start to ramp up his innings because he's going to start, and it looks like he's going to be placed on the ALCS roster. He was left off the divisional series roster, and now he's going to be on the ALCS roster. Like, it's so fascinating how quickly things can change and just the turning of the page. The Rangers could have easily tanked. They went to Tampa. Now, I know Tampa had some issues with injuries and Wander Franco not being there. But the Rangers lost the division. Can't even hang a pennant for division champions. I mean, I guess, can they? Because they're tied, and then the tiebreaker, it's sort of like in the Big 12. You can be the number 2 seed in the tournament, but you were the Big 12 champions in the regular season.
I think you played the wild card round.
Yeah.
You don't get to.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Because KU was the number 2 seed a couple of times in the Big 12 tournament during their stretch with Bill Self of winning the conferences, which, to me, still a conference championship.
Way smaller samples. You got 162 games to figure it out. I don't feel bad.
Totally agree. You could have won one more game down the stretch. Yep. Split with the Mariners. They didn't even make the playoffs. Split with the Mariners. You lost 3 or 4. Sorry, you don't get to hang a pennant. And like that, all of a sudden they're unbeatable. And they're smoking the baseball. And they're crushing the Orioles. And the Orioles had no chance in that game, in that series. I mean, they were just, curb stomped in that one. And that's after curb stomping the Rays. I don't think they'll do that against the Astros, but I am hoping we might get a matchup of, the Twins still could win. I just think they're pretty heavy underdogs in this matchup. Astros need to win one of the next 2 games. It's 2-1 series with the Astros leading that one. And a pretty dominant performance yesterday, and I'm not sure anybody should ever pitch to Yordan Alvarez, maybe ever again. Even if he's 55, I would still walk him. He could be Satchel Paige out there, and I'm like, 4. I'm going to give him 4. And Jose Abreu went from not being able to hit anything out of the park in the first month and a half to now crushing the baseball again. Like, the Astros are really freaking good. I'm hoping maybe if that matchup happens, we get a Verlander-Scherzer matchup, together against each other with the Rangers. That would be fun.
Awesome.
I don't know how long Scherzer could go in the game with him still recovering. But all of a sudden, what felt like it was an Astros going to be barreling towards the World Series against maybe the Braves, we might have Rangers-Phillies or Rangers-Diamondbacks. Not that I'm counting out the Dodgers, but Diamondbacks have to win one of the next 3 games, 2 of those at home. They're the heaviest favorite of the 3 remaining divisional series are the Diamondbacks to win, which makes sense because you've got 1-1 and 2-1 in the others. So You've got a 2-0 lead and heading back to Arizona, but that's against the Dodgers. So it's crazy. Like, I found myself enjoying the Rangers style of baseball. And I'm sort of a closet Phillies fan from the money that they made me last year during their postseason run. So,
and this is a pro Bryce Harper show.
It absolutely is a pro.
Oh, hold on. Dylan?
Absolutely. I love the Phillies.
Okay.
Do you really?
Yeah, I made a lot of money as well on their run last season.
Yes.
And to further pat myself on the back, I had the Greg Abbott parlay last night, the 2 Texas teams.
Good for you,
so,
dude.
Yes, and Bochy is hot in the postseason, as he always seems to get.
Dude, the managerial matchup with Astros and Rangers could be pretty awesome, too. A couple of World Series winning managers. It is also stark when you see Bochy out there, not just in the dugout, right, but out there amongst players, just to how monstrous of a man he is. When he's hugging some of the players and they're coming up to his navel, like they're hugging him like he's like they're his child.
Get over here, little son.
Come on, guys. He's eating peanuts off one of the guy's heads.
Is he managing a 12 and under baseball team? What's going on?
Such a big man. I can't wait for today as well because Orlando Arcia. What in the hell, man? I wish there was audio of it. I haven't seen any audio of it, of him running around the clubhouse with reporters everywhere going, ha ha, attaboy Harper, attaboy Harper, after Harper got doubled off at first.
That play was nuts, by the way. We haven't talked about that. That was incredible.
It was an amazing play. I showed my son a couple of times, and I'm like, what's the best part of this play? And the best part of the play that I tried to show Everett
is a coaching point for the follow-up, the cleaning up the mess.
The backup.
The
third baseman backing up the throw. He was not in the play, but yet he made the play.
Yep.
He and Michael Harris were the ones that made the play, and he wasn't in the play. Everybody's got a job.
Excellent
no matter
baseball
what.
dad work by you right there. That's great stuff.
Everybody's got a job on the field. You may not think you've got a job, but all of a sudden you're in it. You don't watch the game, play the game.
This acrobat that just went to the sky to haul
Yes.
it, not the most impressive part, son.
Yeah.
Look at the teamwork here.
Because the guy on third base thought maybe he was going to have a play over at third base, and all of a sudden he didn't. But because he was no longer in the play, even a potential pickle, he backed up the throw, and because he was right place, right time, scoop and throw, you get the double, and Orlando Arcia gets the laughing around the clubhouse, yelling, attaboy Harper. I'm not sure heading to Philadelphia, and that to me is a little bit of the Icarus, of especially a guy who hasn't got a hit in the series yet.
Yeah.
To be the one that's sort of trashing Bryce Harper.
He was on base.
Because, I mean, the Phillies at home. The Braves still haven't decided who's pitching today.
Yeah.
They still
looking at that
have
earlier.
they decided yet? Have they picked?
They hadn't as of 9:45 when Dylan was like, the Braves don't have a pitcher yet.
No, they don't. It's Aaron Nola versus
Bryce Elder.
No.
They announced.
Corn Elder.
With Bryce Elder. Okay.
Who has struggled against the Phils.
He got smoked by the Phillies.
I took the Phillies. So
Here's the thing. Bryce Elder is going to go out there and have 5 Ks, 4 innings, 1 earned run, 5, 6 Ks, or he's going to go 1 1/3 and give up 3 home runs. Because the sinker slider, if it's low and down and away, and he's working the bottom part of the strike zone, he's got stuff. But against the Phillies last time out, he was elevating it, and the Phillies were putting him on the other side of the fence. And he was walking guys. And at home, you've got a guy that if he starts to get wild in the strike zone, at home for the Phillies, I mean, and that crowd that is just zoo nuts, and that guy on the mound, last time he saw those Phillies, he was getting smoked and walking guys and giving up home runs. You walk the first guy, good luck.
Good luck, bud.
Good luck. And you've got Orlando Arcia with the, attaboy, Harper. Just, why? What's the point? You haven't won the series. It's 1-1. You're heading to Philadelphia. Why are you deciding to run around the clubhouse making fun of Bryce Harper?
In a bookkeeping note here, I couldn't go all the way back to get the same number of games, but just September plus 1 game in October.
Yeah.
The Rangers went 15-14. The Royals went 15-12.
See?
The Royals had a better winning percentage in the last month of the season.
Right.
Plus the one extra, because I think the Royals won, Rangers lost last games of the season.
Last game of the season.
Yeah, because if the Rangers would have won, like you said, they would have not had to be in that spot. That's wild. The Royals had a better record in September.
I wonder how many Septembers the Royals have better records than teams that made the postseason. Teams that won World Series, like how many times over the last 5, 6, 7 years, teams that have won a World Series had a worse record than the Royals in September?
I'd guess 5, 6, or 7.
It is fascinating. I think the winner of the Phillies and Braves series wins the World Series.
You have to be a D-bag about it.
And that is kind of just dismissing the Diamondbacks. You know what?
Which I understand. I dismiss the Diamondbacks.
You know what? I'm gonna check myself because you know what the Diamondbacks are?
What are the Diamondbacks?
Me just saying the winner of that series is going to win the World Series is very reminiscent in my mind of the Chiefs and Bills game in overtime. Once the Bengals beat the Titans on the road, it was winner of Bills and Chiefs goes to the Super Bowl.
That's right.
And the Diamondbacks Bengals are just sitting there like, no. What about us? We just stepped up, surprised everybody. We weren't supposed to be here. We got a little young team nucleus, and all of a sudden we're just having fun playing baseball, and we're beating these old heads in the Diamondbacks with their $500 million payroll. And we got this stud rookie in Corbin Carroll who's just balling. And we got some pretty damn good pitchers, too, that are throwing BBs. We feel pretty good. Yeah, I'm going to check myself because the Diamondbacks have a little Bengals in them right now. Little Bengals of 2021.
I kind of like that. Take. I don't know who their crushing World Series loss will be against, and I'm not thrilled for them that their next several years are going to be them continuing to chase the ghost that they slightly miss out on this year. But that'd be a good run for Diamondbacks baseball.
Maybe, yeah. But that is probably me just simply looking at a year ago pedigree, Phillies, Braves, and ignoring the up and coming young, fun team that is also smoking their divisional series right now.
We got to do with purple hair.
No, that's
see me sneaking a wee there. I haven't watched one Diamondbacks game, first and ninth inning all year long.
It is funny the hat you're wearing right now.
Fraud.
You are wearing a Diamondbacks hat.
I am
right
corduroy and everything. This is on purpose. I almost wore my D-backs jersey, and I got a shirt that is really going to change. The only thing at this point that I think can stop the Diamondbacks is this stupid commitment to this color scheme. They've been drifting. They tinker in the throwbacks. They got a little teal in there now.
Well, I played a little parlay with the Phillies, Diamondbacks, and Astros winning the divisional series. Little parlay. Astros and Diamondbacks winning their divisional series, not going to pay much. Throw the Phillies in there that are still plus 120. Oddly enough, the Phillies today are minus 125, but they're plus 120 to win the divisional series.
Huh.
Meaning that Vegas thinks they can lose today, but the Braves will then win the next 2.
Interesting.
Or at least favored to win the next 2. Favored to win 2 of the next 3, but the Phillies are heavy favorites today with Nola on the mound.
Sounds like something for me to gamble on.
That's exactly right. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. All right, we'll talk with Cynthia Freeland coming up at 11 o'clock. Next segment, NFL Network analytics expert. You know, I was looking at last night, the one-score games conversation that goes on, especially about the Vikings and everything, and the Chiefs finding a way to beat the Vikings, and the Vikings finding a way to lose a one-score game yet again. And last year being the one-score game darlings, and this year being the one-score game victims. So I was looking that up, and just, you know, the talk about, you know, being 50-50 and, you know, you don't want to be in one-score games and everything like that. So I wanted to look up Patrick Mahomes' record in one-score games, which I'll bring up with Cynthia Freeland.
I bet it's pretty good.
He has played in 40,
You got to carry the one.
He's played in 48 one-score games in his regular season career.
That feels kind of high, but I also don't think he's lost a whole lot of multiple score games, so that might be like every loss except for a few.
He's played in 48 one-score games. What would his? How many wins does he have in that?
In 48?
Yeah. If you throw in the postseason, he's played in 55 one-score games. So how many was it? Throw in postseason too. How many wins? Regular season and postseason. No, it's more than 30.
42.
It's close.
Did I overshoot it?
A little bit.
I don't think they lose multi-score games ever, so...
In a 50-50 league of one-score games, Patrick Mahomes in his career, postseason included, is 38-17.
Unbelievable.
In one-score games. That's a 690 winning percentage, which is roughly a 12-5 record.
His first multi-score loss was the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers.
That's right.
I measured the big boys' booties for like 2 years.
She's analyzed the data.
If you can keep that big booty down, like if you are a big boy, if you're very tall and you can keep your booty down low, then you are far more successful.
She's crunched the numbers, and the results are clear.
The back of booty isn't as good, as it turns out.
If she picks a dog, she'll have the math to back it up.
It's not like Travis Kelce has done. My dog is very excited about this, just so you know.
It's Cynthia Freeland of NFL Network. Now in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We will continue rolling. We'll talk some NFL football. We'll hang out coming up at noon with James Palmer, NFL Network. And right now with the NFL Network as well, Cynthia Freeland, analytics expert, joining us here in the zone. Cynthia, how are you?
Happy Wednesday.
Yes, to
Thursday.
you as well.
Happy Thursday.
Well,
I'm like a day behind.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Wednesday, it's a Thursday. Well, it's almost a Thursday. It's like a Saturday for the Chiefs, though, which is what we were joking about this week. It's like, well, Monday they had coordinators go, which is what they do on Thursday. So Monday was a Thursday to them.
I'm so confused this week. You have no idea.
Yeah, and then
London
yesterday
games really had me thrown off.
that's probably true as well. Cynthia Freeland is our guest, NFL Network analytics expert. Let's talk about the Chiefs and Vikings. They find a way to get it done. They win 27-20. What did you see in that matchup from the Chiefs and winning and moving to 4-1 on the season?
I think the biggest sign of strength that I saw was how Isaiah Pacheco was. I mean, look, obviously we got the usual suspects in terms of strength with Patrick Mahomes every single week. I could talk about him. But that aside, I really liked to see what I saw from Pacheco and the ability for, there was some weird, that game had kind of a weird cadence to it, some weird calls. But I thought that the scheme for Pacheco specifically were really good. And, of course, a little jet against his old team was always fun for posterity's sake more than, the actual, driving forces behind it. But it was a good, solid, not the best, everything wasn't firing on all cylinders, and it still looked like Kelce in and out of the lineup is never, an easy thing for a team that's really, used to him being there. So I thought that was a really good sign. Yeah.
Pacheco did not hit the total in his prop bet in the game, and I blame myself because I was touting Pacheco over 60.5 rushing yards. He ended up with 57 because I said in 15 games in Isaiah Pacheco's 15 games in his career where he's been given at least 10 carries in those games. In 15 games, he's carried the ball 10 or more times. He has averaged over 4 yards per carry, every single one of them except one, and he's averaged 5 yards per carry in 13 of the 15 games, and he averaged 3.7 on Sunday, and I got to 57 yards. So I blame myself, Cynthia. It's my fault. I was touting Pacheco.
It is actually all your fault. Yes, it's your fault completely. We should all blame you, really.
If you told me, after the game that, hey, or before the game, Pacheco's going to get the ball 16 times, I would have lost more money on the prop than I actually did. So I'm glad I didn't know that he was going to carry the ball 16 times in the game because he has been a 60-yard machine. It's what he does. And against the Broncos, by the way, that's already jumped up to 74.5. So I think Vegas is adjusted for Pacheco and the Broncos defense.
Yeah, the Broncos defense, that's a tough. It's tough sledding for them, especially against the run. I mean, obviously, when you have a 70-burger put up against you, you're going to have some, some weird results, meaning that number's going to be skewed. However, and look, even though it wasn't the most efficient of days, you talked about, under 4 yards per attempt. That's the thing. Sometimes you don't need those deep gashes to be impactful and important. Sometimes you just got to work it out when things don't seem like they're necessarily working, and that was what I thought was pretty encouraging, especially because the Vikings defense is weird. It's super weird. They are really vulnerable in both man and zone, and then when they try to do tricky things and false leverages, it just doesn't seem to always work for them. But they did kind of have a better plan, all things considered, for the Chiefs compared to some other games they had this season. It was not, it was not like it was hard for them losing Justin Jefferson, of course, but they had a better plan. The defense played up to the Chiefs a little bit more than some other matches this season.
Maybe it was part of the game plan overall and they just stuck with it, but we've seen this Chiefs team when the running game is not performing and is not effective in setting up maybe some second and shorts or setting up maybe, if it's a 2nd and 10, setting up a 3rd and a little more manageable for the Chiefs. We've seen the Andy Reid and this Chiefs team abandon the run. I mean, the Lions, I think they carried the ball like twice in the second half or handed it off. Like we've seen that happen from time to time. Does it say anything to you that in this game that was 13-13 and back and forth to a degree that Isaiah Pacheco wasn't effective to the degree that he has been for the most part in his career, that averaged 3.7 yards per carry, but still carried the ball 16 times in that game? Does it say anything to you of sort of maybe Andy Reid and this Chiefs offense maybe adjusting a little bit to the inconsistencies on the offense and maybe being more, at this point, I don't know, a defensive team?
I mean, yes. I guess my answer to that is sometimes the game plan, like overcoming adversity doesn't necessarily, it sounds bad when you look at the numbers, but when you go back and watch it, and when you watch it without passion, meaning you don't know you already know what the outcome is, so you already know things are going to be okay. You see the schemes, and it feels like they're working some stuff out. What the Chiefs do better than anyone else is, sometimes they condense the formation, sometimes they spread it out. They're really back and forth a lot about what it looks like pre-snap, and adapting to that throughout the game, given the different looks that this Brian Flores-led defense gave them. That's the type of thing. Anyone that comes from the Patriots tree is extremely concerned with how they match up against any Andy Reid team, right? So they feel like they have extra wrinkles and folds involved in that. So I think that's really working it out and figuring that out, despite it not being obviously, if you're a Chiefs fan, you want every single, why get the 3rd down? Let's just go 1st down on 1st down every single time, or touchdown each time, right? But when you look back, working that stuff out and figuring out how to change some of the ways that the offensive line operates, and what are the matchups and how are they kind of overcoming those. It's not sexy, but that's kind of how you get everything to start working.
Cynthia Freeland is our guest, NFL Network analytics expert. We talked last week about the Vikings and the close losses and the close wins last year and the one-score games. What if you look at sort of games throughout the NFL in today's game? If there's a one-score game and a team wins or loses, how much do you put that into the ball bounces one way or another? How much do you put that into maybe some numbers in the game or decisions by a coach, play by a Hall of Fame quarterback, for a team to find themselves on top more often than not?
That's where you're not getting regression, right? That's where you don't see regression. When you have a better team with a better plan, you'll often come out on top more often, right? It's not that's where you're not getting the luck of if you're letting things come down to, even the Bills actually happened this past game with, they started so slow, that, it got down to that last possession, and, it won't necessarily come down to the other team making a mistake for you to win as often, right? These things happen. It's still NFL football. It's still, this is the highest level of it. So ultimately, there's no, that's just where you have, an actual statistical advantage, not where you're relying on, the law of averages, to kind of get you back and the ball bounce in your favor.
Yeah. I asked that because last night I in prepping to talk with you, I wanted to look at, Patrick Mahomes, and, we've heard the numbers of, Patrick Mahomes when trailing and the Patrick Mahomes when down by, 10 or more points, in his career and compared to these other quarterbacks. But, we were talking about the Vikings in one-score games. So I went and looked at every single one-score game that Patrick Mahomes has started and played in. He has played in 55 one-score games, and including the postseason. And he's 38-17 in one-score games, which is a .690 winning percentage, which would be over the course of a season, Cynthia, essentially if they played every single game, a one-score game throughout his career, the Chiefs would still be 12-5 every year.
Right. I mean, well, that's where you're getting better results. If you have, if you have a better team and a better – like, that's the Patrick Mahomes effect, right? Like, there's a reason why we probably won't see a better quarterback in our lifetime when it's all said and done. I mean, look, Tom Brady right now has it because he's played longer. But, you know, the reality is we probably won't see better than Patrick in our lifetime. And there's the data to back that up.
Yeah. I mean, is there something to, like, just finding a way to get it? I mean, Tom Brady found a way to get it done. Patrick Mahomes found a way to get it done. Is it just strictly talent? Is there something else that's not measurable with that? That old, he's got that it factor. Like, I'm an old school. Analytics suck, but he's got it. You know, like, because he's just incredibly talented.
I feel like you can sort of quantify the it factor, and the way you do that is you quantify something that's like a more quality observation, meaning like it's not a counting number, but you do see like with Patrick Mahomes, you don't ever feel like they've like stopped playing or they're taking plays off, right? Patrick keeps them in like the focus, the attention span, the fact that, like, sometimes even a short game, like, you don't feel – I remember at least a Titans game, right? Like, you watch it and, like, the Chiefs are down big and you're like, well, but, like, you never feel like they're out. And we feel like that because what's happening is they're not giving up, right? Like, they're still – they're not – you know, I saw some weird games this week. There were some games where – I mean, look, like, if Bailey Zappi's going in, you know that, like, things are not good in Patriot land, right? So It felt like some of the players were maybe not trying to get that extra push. You don't feel like that with championship teams. You don't feel like Tom Brady's ever out of it. You don't feel like Patrick Mahomes is ever out of it. In fact, you often don't feel like Josh Allen is ever out of it either, even if he's thrown 3 picks, right? So it's the ability to stay focused, engaged, and believing that, you know, just a break or two here or there is going to change the fate. And I think that's what people talk about when they say they can't quantify it. But I think the way you would sort of measure that is by saying, do you see any quit? And you never see quit. I mean, go watch that Broncos game. There was some quit there. Even though, you know, I'll say Russell Wilson's probably getting overly dinged. There's been some Broncos games where I've seen some quit. Yeah.
And I, you know, you do wonder, like, across the team, whether it's the defense or certainly offensively when you're out there with number 15 on the field, but God, how many times we've heard a defensive player and a Chiefs comeback and like, hey, how did this get done? And they're like, well, we got number 15. You know, number 15's over there. Like, we heard that a lot in that 2019 run when they beat the Texans and came back against the Titans and came back against the 49ers, that the defense kept them in against the 49ers in that second half. And Frank Clark and Chris Jones being interviewed about, you know, being able to do that. And like, we got 15 over there. You know, as long as we keep doing our job, 15's over there and we'll find a way to win. And it's like that. I always called it the inevitability of Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and still until that Buccaneers game when it was no longer inevitable. That okay, they just got beat down and you couldn't overcome those things. But there is still that feel, you know, of when they lose. It's like, wow, how did they not get it done against the Lions? Like, they were down 1, they were going to go down and score. It's just the inevitability, and I wonder how much. I certainly know that it permeates through the Chiefs sideline. I wonder how much it permeates through the other team's sideline.
I think that it absolutely does. Like, you saw, I mean, one of the things that I liked about, like, Jared Goff after beating the Chiefs, like, a lot of people would be like, oh my God, we just beat the Chiefs, like, be in their feelings. He was like, yeah, no, we did a lot wrong, and, like, sort of he basically said, like, we kind of got lucky. Like, he's like, we did, like, just enough right to win. There's still so much we did. Like, you know, it was kind of like, oh my gosh, we held on and won this thing. It didn't feel like there was ever a moment where, like, we got this in the bag. Now, Dan Campbell's comment, like, he didn't learn anything. Okay, whatever. But, like, I think he meant it more like we already knew Patrick was awesome, but it came across a little weird to me. But at the end of the day, it's like, nobody thinks that if you beat Tom Brady, if you beat Patrick Mahomes, even if you beat, you know, Joe Burrow when he's on being himself and not injured, like, people, they recognize that those guys are never out. Like, those are not teams that, like, the defense believes in the offense believes in the defense. Some people are wired to just never quit. Like, I think you saw it in the quarterback, you know, documentary a lot, right? Like, you see, like, Patrick's kind of like two different people, right? Like, so nice and, like, calm in his regular life, and then, like, when you see him get that fire, it seems like a different man. Like he turns into a different human.
Yeah. We talked a couple of years ago. In fact, or was it? No, it was last year. It was just last year that the Chiefs went to Cincinnati and lost, and they missed the field goal late, being down by 3. And then the Bengals had the ball. The Chiefs missed some tackles. They were out of timeouts. It was 3rd and 9 for the Bengals, and the conservative thing to do would be run it. Drain the clock, kick a field goal, go up by 6, and leave the Chiefs limited amount of time. And they threw the ball, and they completed the pass. And Joe Burrow, after the game, was asked about it. He said, because of who's on the other sideline, we had to pick up a first down.
Exactly.
That was our mindset, was first down, no matter how we did it. And if we threw the ball, it was incomplete, well, he gets the ball. If we throw the ball and it's complete and it's not a first down, he gets the ball. If we throw the ball, it's complete, it's first down, he doesn't. So our strategy was because of who's on the other sideline. That was interesting with Joe Burrow saying that. Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert, is our guest. I wanted to talk to you about red zone defense for this Chiefs team. Throughout the offseason, Steve Spagnuolo preached it, harped on it. Throughout training camp, he preached it, harped on it. But for context, last year the Chiefs preached it, harped on it week in and week out about how much they're focusing on red zone defense, and they were 32nd or 31st in the NFL last year, giving up 67.3% of trips to the red zone ended up being touchdowns. And Adam Teicher from ESPN, our Chiefs insider on Tuesday, said last year felt like an 80-yard field. When the team got in the red zone, they were scoring touchdowns. So all they had to do was get to the 20, and they were scoring against that Chiefs team. And it was talked about so much. And then talked about this offseason. And they're really good this year, especially compared to last year. They're 8th best in the NFL. 46% of trips to the red zone are resulting in touchdowns only. As you look at that from like an analytics standpoint, is that a year-to-year thing? Is that one that there's a lot of noise with? Is there something that you look at and say, no, that's clearly a coaching, it's a strategy, it's a scheme thing, it's a player thing as to why you can go from second worst in the NFL to top 10 in red zone defense?
Well, there's a couple of things all at play here. The first is always what you measure matters. So if you're trying to really focus on something, whether or not it's like maybe the best thing, that's what's going to change, right? Like if you're only measuring third down defense, your third down numbers are going to look different. But what happens on first and second down then, right? The reality is you have more continuity with players. You have a better understanding of how the defense is supposed to work. So you don't have that we're always talking about 6-7 weeks before we really understand what we're looking at with the Chiefs defense every year. And this year that was shortened because they just know each other and they played together. So there's a couple of things there. And the thing about what you measure matters. Like, make sure what you measure is what actually matters. And in this case, it does matter, right? Like, that is an actual really important stat. The hard part, though, is in general, if some things stop working on the offense, you got to be better at, the full defensive picture to help the offense. And they seem to have been. The hard part is I'm going to tell you there's a lot of messy data with the Chiefs in terms of, just how good they can be. Because, and this week's not really going to help much, no offense to the Broncos, but, this offense is epic and you have Patrick, so that skews the numbers. I want to know what this defense can do. And not throwing shade at the Broncos, but this isn't the week for that.
Yeah. It soon will be the week for that because the Chargers are a week from Sunday. And then 3 weeks from Sunday is Germany against the Dolphins, and then they've got the Eagles, and we'll find out pretty quickly how good this defense is.
We'll do a German lesson, a couple of German words before we go for all your fans, because I grew up in Luxembourg, which is actually not so far from Frankfurt, so I know some good German words. Like if you're hungry, you just say "Ich habe Hunger," and then people will be like, "Great, I'll feed you. There's schnitzel. Here you go."
Ich habe Hunger.
Ich habe Hunger. I'm hungry.
Have Hunger. And I am right now, so it's Have Hunger.
Exactly. It's perfect.
You grew up in Luxembourg, and I found that out today. That
isn't that random?
So how did I mean? So I now I need to know this. I don't even care about football anymore, Cynthia. I need to know the story about growing up in Luxembourg and then being back here in the States and becoming an analytics expert.
Yeah, I grew up there. My dad, his job took us over there. He worked for General Motors for his whole career, and we were over there, and he did some stuff with F1, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
And, we lived in Luxembourg for, almost all of elementary school. So I was that weird kid that didn't speak the language that other kids spoke, so I had to learn French and German because Luxembourg's it's really centrally located, so you get both types of, kids who speak both languages. So I learned mostly French, but also enough German to be, dangerous.
Are you fluent in French and almost German? So like 3 languages for you?
Yeah, well, I sound like that makes me sound like a loser, but yes, I French, yes, French and English, but German, I would say I'm more conversational. I couldn't go to college in German. I couldn't. Okay. I would be like, what? What's going on?
And you're fluent in math. So that's 4 languages. 4 languages.
That's because that's all I could speak. The other kids spoke other languages. I can only speak numbers because I was like, what? I'm from Michigan. What are we doing here, people?
And then you had to do the metric system and all of that stuff. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably why you're good at math, is because you're doing 2 different, calculations of it's feet, it's yards, meters. I don't know. Is it miles or meters? I'm not sure. Let's figure it out.
Miles, meters, fine. Whatever. As long as you know.
That's right. Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. All right. What do you think for the Chiefs and Broncos tomorrow night?
I hate to say this because it always sounds bad, but typically I don't get 14 or 15 point, forecast wins, and this one's a 16-pointer. So I just don't think this is going to be the week for the Broncos to put up much of a fight. Their run defense is a huge problem. They've gotten a little better in defending the pass, but this is a tough team. And as much as, Russell Wilson has some fight in him, we'll have to see how that works out. But, I feel mean. It's a pretty significant difference between the two. I'll say it like that.
Yeah, like a 4 or 5 point difference is there's a decided advantage on one side, and this is a 16-point forecast. So, that is.
I just don't hit that very often. Yeah. So when I see it, I'm always you kind of get that that's sad. It's still going to be a fun one to watch. I'm so excited to see how Patrick Mahomes stays perfect against these Broncos. I feel like they always find a different way to win, and it'll be exciting no matter what.
I love that you're sad for the Broncos because of what the forecast on your model said.
Well, I mean, I want the Chiefs to win, obviously, but I do all the modeling blind, so I'm so it makes me feel bad.
Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert, and fluent in French, English, math, and enough German to be dangerous.
But apparently,
I don't know. I'll just teach you key phrases that you need to know when you're there, so you can get around and make sure you get all the good stuff.
Yes.
Also, apparently fluent in empathy, just for the Broncos, because it's going to seem like bullying on Thursday night.
Maybe that's what happens. Cynthia, thank you so much. Appreciate it. We'll talk next week.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. There's Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. I just love that. It's a blind forecast, right? And the model and predicting what happens in the game, and it comes out a 16-point win for the Chiefs. It's oh, poor Broncos.
I've got the advantage now of hindsight, but I think if you said, hey, who in NFL media who you've spoken to, know of well, whatever, who would you guess has the best chance of being fluent in, 2 or 3 languages? I like to think we would have all said Cynthia.
I probably would have got there.
It's
just going through all the different, you know what, probably, Cynthia, probably.
It was definitely Cynthia or Mick for me. It wasn't going to be Mick.
Mick's not fluent in English. What are you talking about?
He's barely fluent in television. He has to put his words in front of him on a screen to read them on TV.
Exactly right. Yes.
He's an okay reader, but the comprehension is not his strength.
He's fluent in reading English.
That's right.
Is he fluent in talking English? I can talk English. How about that? We've talked to her for 2 years now and just found out that she grew up in Luxembourg.
That's amazing.
I mean, I knew that it was the connection was cars, because of her being a Detroit Lions fan and being around Detroit and, her family with General Motors. I didn't realize that then they moved to Luxembourg, and then her dad was working in F1. That's pretty kick-ass.
Incredibly.
Yeah.
I was gonna tell you that it was whatever the German word for awesome is.
What's
but
the German word for awesome?
Well, I ran it through Google Translate, and it's just
Awesome.
Toll.
Toll?
Toll.
Toll.
But that loosely translates back to great, which loosely translates in German to grobartig, perhaps. I don't know. I've never this little B. It's not a B. I don't understand. I think this is definitely German or a math symbol for sure. So Cynthia can figure it out.
I've already forgotten what the "I am hungry" line was.
Yeah, I'm not. I was gonna try to retain that.
Go back and I was gonna write it down, but then I started wondering. Like, hold on, you grew up in Luxembourg. Okay. All right, we'll take a time out. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. More Zone right after this. right, 913-912-4810. Text says it's Luxembourg, not Lexingburg. Like, I combined Lexington and Luxembourg there. You know, Missouri's heading to Lexington coming up this weekend to face off against UK, and Cynthia is from Luxembourg.
That game's happening in Jertucky, right?
That's exactly right.
I had to say that one in my head a few times to make sure it wasn't going to be a problem.
Well, I had to say the Luxembourg and Luxembourg thing. It's like, which one is which? Luxembourg, Lexington? No, it's Lexington and Luxembourg. Yes, Luxembourg is where Cynthia grew up.
Once again, we barely speak English, so you guys got to give us some slack.
That's exactly right. I'm working on being fluent in English. I talk good. Texas, Cynthia is a top 5 guest on the entire radio station.
I agree.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't want to be trying to knock anybody off a Mount Rushmore, but she belongs.
Yeah, for sure. We were talking about the one-score games Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have played in, and what his record is, regular season and postseason. He's 38-17, which is a 69% winning percentage, which is a roughly 12-5 record throughout the regular season. Text says, yeah, but what's the percentage that the refs gifted them? It's a great point. It's a great question.
I almost did that to you on Twitter yesterday with that Nate Tice stat. And you're like, hey, this is like the rest of our conversation. I like had the tweet opened up to be like, well, once you adjust for referees, it's not as impressive. And I just decided I didn't want to do that. It was like 9:30. Like, I don't want either of our evenings to invite ref talk on our timeline.
So great. Text says it's Pennsyltucky. I don't know what that is, but sure.
I hope it's not bad.
I don't know. Who knows? 913-912-4810. Yeah, I completely, until you said that, I completely forgot about that tweet that was out there from Nate Tice.
Yeah, I can go grab it if we'll see how quick these fingers type. But it was really interesting, and straight back to that conversation we were having. Was that right after? It was after the preseason failed sneak with Blake Bell, right? We were way ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
I'm gonna scoop it up here at some point.
Mm-hmm.
You tweet a lot. No, you tagged me, so it's going to look
just
like
tagged
a reply.
You, yeah. It was just a reply, yeah. I don't tweet a lot, though. I try not to. Also, Jordan Schultz has tweeted out that he's been told Nick Bolton has been cleared to return tomorrow night. So Nick Bolton expected to play against the Broncos. That's rough news for Denver. That's not good for Denver to get Nick Bolton back playing.
I'm really interested to see how that rotation evolves because Drew Tranquill has not done a single thing to take him off the field.
But you know what? The Chiefs went 3-0 in those games that Nick Bolton missed, and Drew Tranquill got the experience of being the green dot.
Yep.
When Nick Bolton wasn't in the game as the full green dot, and the full week of preparation, the full scheme, the full game plan, all on Drew Tranquill. And passed it with flying colors. And somehow he's a Chief and not a Los Angeles Charger. I'm not sure how that happened, but good teams stay good teams. And sometimes some franchises that struggle and can't get over the hump, there are reasons why they struggle and can't get over the hump. Because Drew Tranquill's a Chief and J.C. Jackson was traded with a lot of money they paid him.
And, I mean, the Chiefs didn't have to beat some crazy offer to get Tranquill. And it's not like that Chargers defense had been humming at any point. You mentioned Tremaine Edmonds earlier. Like, the deal that he got from Chicago, and, like, we're, some apples and oranges to some extent here. But he got a massive deal for a linebacker. Is Tremaine Edmonds doing more right now than Drew Tranquill? Or certainly if you're adjusting for value, like
couldn't even tell you.
Well, I can tell you what defense he's a part of, and that defense stinks.
Yes,
that's a little bit oversimplifying it, but that contract at the time made me a little bit uneasy. 4 years, $72 million, $50 million guaranteed for a linebacker is a lot of money. Drew Tranquill was a bargain, and he's been excellent. And I hope he stays on the field.
And the point about not having to go and like outbid other people, like the Chiefs wanted to get Trent Williams.
Yep.
And they got in the bidding war with the San Francisco 49ers, and he ended up staying in San Francisco. I get it. The agent approached the Chiefs, as the story goes, of like, hey, are you guys interested in Drew Tranquill? I mean, we didn't think we would be, but yes, we're interested in Drew Tranquill. Like, hold on, is he available? What's the price? Well, here's Here's what we're looking for.
1 year, $3 million is what they landed on.
Well, yes, we're interested at that. Hold on, the Chargers aren't bringing him back? Like, oh, yeah. Like, that's one of those, like, we talked about with the Bengals. The Bengals weren't planning on getting Orlando Brown, and it worked out that, Orlando Brown's agents reached out to, the Bengals and said, hey, you guys interested in Orlando Brown? And like, oh, sure. We didn't even know that, we could afford him. Like, oh, no, don't worry. He's not getting nearly as much money as he was offered by the Chiefs, so it's all good. He's getting less money now. I did a great job as his agent. Are you guys interested? And the Chiefs somehow, Drew Tranquill was there. And it's just a fantastic signing that has been great for the Chiefs. And with Nick Bolton not playing the last 3 weeks, they haven't missed a beat, it feels like.
I'll tell you what. So Tranquill, the $3 million cap hit this year. I'm skipping over rookies who are in rookie deals that have that number. Mike Edwards, $2.88 million. Donovan Smith, your starting left tackle, for better or for worse, 2.76. $3 million or less for each of Drew Tranquill, Mike Edwards, and Donovan Smith. All three of those dudes for less than $10 million. Harrison Butker's making $5 million this year.
Well, I mean, that's how you survive with Patrick Mahomes making the money that he's making. And
You
Chris
have
Jones
to nail those.
And Joe Tooney making the money that he's making. Like, man, Jawan Taylor's making 20, so not necessarily against the cap this year.
That's the other thing, too, is his
about
cap
to
it's
balloon.
not. Exactly. It's still coming.
It's going to balloon next year. But those are the ways that you have to do it and survive and find those guys. And, I like the Mike Edwards signing because, he was available because he didn't have a good year last year in Tampa. But if you look at when he was a third safety, last year he was a starting safety in Tampa, and he struggled. But the previous years as the third safety, he was pretty good. Came in when need to, made plays, was around the ball, and just played his role. If somebody goes down on the Chiefs, whether it be Justin Reed or Brian Cook, I don't know that you would get the same play out of Mike Edwards. But right now, the role he's playing is perfect for him. And he's back into what benefited him in his career to where he was a good player. And now and he's everywhere. He's all over the ball. He's always by the ball.
Yep.
Like the ball's in the air. Mike Edwards is near it. Like, he's been really good. Like, those acquisitions for smaller, under the radar deals that have proved to be pretty damn good. Two of those guys on defense with Drew Tranquill and Mike Edwards and what they're doing. And Donovan Smith, your starting left tackle, who's been fine.
I remember what I was thinking when I first saw the Bush and Tranquill deals, the Edwards and Tranquill deals. One being, okay, well, maybe Mike Edwards is going to be here to compete with Deion Bush for that third safety spot. Deion Bush is on the practice squad right now. Like, that competition was over pretty quickly, and he's getting paid more than Bush was and everything. But I was just kind of in that headspace. He has far exceeded that. I thought, there might still have to be some more youth there, or maybe that ended up being Shamari Khan. Nope, Edwards has been great. My reaction with the Drew Tranquill signing, when I saw not the contract details, but just Chiefs reportedly agreeing to terms with Drew Tranquill, my reaction was, oh no. What the bleep?
How much are they?
Because I assumed it would be a multi-year deal that would have to have some guaranteed money that would probably have resulted in them having to outbid some places. It's like, well, so are you just overpaying to get Willie Gay off the field, which is something that I don't want them to do, that Spags occasionally just feels the need to do? Where you're saying, okay, so you're going to be paying Drew Tranquill. You got one more year with Willie Gay, and then he's taking that spot over, and he'll be next to Nick Bolton, who you're going to pay, and you spent yet another draft pick on Leo Chanel. Like, there was a lot of resources there in 2 second-round picks, and Leo ended up in the fourth, third? I can't remember.
Leo was third.
So you've got 2 seconds, three day 2 picks at linebacker, and a big free agent signing in Drew Tranquill.
Nope.
1 year, $3 million? Okay, yeah, no, that's great. No, I'm in. No, good.
It's awesome.
Let's go, Veach. It's really,
I mean, how much
incredible.
were they paying Ben Neiman a couple of years ago?
Probably pretty close to that.
I mean, it wasn't going to be 3, but, I mean, hell, even $1.5 million. You'd love to double that money to go from Neiman to Tranquill. What was he making in 21?
Ben Neiman in 21, about $1.5 million, just under 1.6.
Yeah, you say, hey, you can double your money for Drew Tranquill. Yeah, sounds great. I'll take it. Sounds like a great deal.
And it is a great deal.
Yes, absolutely. 913-912-4810. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling more zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We had up until 2 o'clock. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show. 913-912-4810, the text line. But yeah, the tweet that was from Nate Tice that I tagged you in.
I got it if you want me to read it.
What? Yeah, please go right ahead. Go right ahead.
He tweeted, the Chiefs offense is currently converting on 46.2% of their 3rd and 7 or longer plays so far this season. The highest rate of any offense since 2000. That's via True Media. I'm guessing that goes back to 2000. I don't think that was a record that's been beaten.
Yeah, so many of these are like the highest in the next gen stats era.
Yes.
So like 2014 or 15 or whatever.
The 2022 Chiefs ranked 3rd, and the 2020 Chiefs ranked 6th amongst the 766 teams in that era.
So 2022, 2020, 2022, and 2023 ranked 1st, 3rd, and 6th of the 766 teams. I mean, it's 3rd and Mahomes.
It really is.
And it's funny because early on this year, we were talking about that they weren't able to convert those. Like, are they going to have those 3rd and Mahomes? So you have to have more of the extended drives and the plays, the negative plays, the penalties are going to set you behind the chains. You're off schedule, and now you're going to punt because you don't have that ability to get out of those 3rd and Mahomes. And yet still almost 50% of their 3rd and 7 or more is being converted for a first down. It's just dumb. And we were talking about it from what it was last year.
Right.
And so last year being 3rd most all time is still incredibly dumb. I guess last year would have been 2nd most all time. Because
I guess so. Yeah, you're right.
Now this is the 1st, so that means last year it moves down to the 3rd.
It's just like 3rd and 7 or longer, just as a point of reference, is when the Raiders and Giants and the like hand the ball off for 3 yards just to make sure nothing bad happens on 3rd and 7 or longer. I mean, 3rd and 7, you'd hope you're taking a real shot at something, but 3rd and 12 is included in 3rd and 7 plus plays so far. If they've taken a snap at 3rd and whatever, it counts here. It's a time that other offensive coordinators are thinking, okay, well, we either need a miracle or we need to just not make a big mistake, or we need to do something at minimum really out of character for our offense. And the Chiefs are converting that more or less the same clip you're going to get heads when you flip a coin. That's nuts.
They are 12 of 26 so far this year on 3rd down and 7 or more yards.
Say that one more time.
12 of 26.
12 of 26. This is not a small sample size situation either. That's quite a few 3rd and longs. I'm guessing several of those were 3rd and significantly longer.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly plenty of 3rd and 10s. It's unbelievable.
They're also, and this is where, we look at the inconsistency of the offense and not scoring as many points. And some of these numbers sort of, you would say, well, they should be scoring more points than a year ago because these numbers, like the 3rd and 7 or longer, is better than it was a year ago. And a year ago was stupid. We also compared it to the 3rd and 1 to 3 yards. They were converting around 50%. So it was almost the same. Well, this year they're converting, almost 70% of the 3rd and shorts somehow. They're 15 of 23. That's I guess 65%. So they're 15 of 23 this year in converting the 3rd and 1 to 3 yards. That is something that we've, talked about that hasn't been able to get done. And by the way, 4th and 1 to 3, they are 2 for 2. So if you say 3rd and 1 to 3 yards and 4th and 1 to 3 yards, they're 17 of 25.
Maybe go for it on 4th and short more often.
Yeah.
Just would be. I mean, since you're so good at it now, guys.
But that's weird because they're converting 68% of the time on short yardage now, while still converting almost 50% of 3rd and 7 or longer. Why the hell are they so inconsistent and not putting up points as consistently as we've seen in years past right now? Like those are things that should be translatable to, hey, this offense has not missed a beat. In fact, they're better.
You're right. That should be indicative of greater offensive success, you would think. There are definitely stats for this, and so I don't have them, so I'm projecting, I suppose. But I have to think it's the explosive plays and lack thereof, where it just hasn't been as explosive of an offense I think again there's a way I'll go look for explosive play rate and see if it is actually different this year as opposed to the last few. But I think it's a little bit of that. And going back to what you were talking about, I think on Thursday, in terms of like, hey, the Chiefs' aggregate receiver stats from last year to this year are not significantly different, but the vibe is very different. But vibes are hard to analyze. And I think that could be coming from a similar place where when you see Patrick Mahomes, and I don't know if most people are watching for this in real time. To be honest, I'm not watching for this in real time most plays. But sometimes you can kind of tell when Mahomes is really working through his progressions. And then his feet get a little more active. And he's looking to maybe bail and extend the play or maybe take off. But you if you watch enough football, eventually you start feeling the clock in your head when the pass rush is closing in a little bit. And that is a very anxiety-inducing way to watch a football game. And it feels like Mahomes has had a lot of that, partially because the pass blocking has been pretty good by and large. And I don't know, did you see the stat of like quarterback sack rate to pressure rate or whatever? There was another chart where Mahomes is he's getting pressured more than average, I think, and just not taking sacks. It's just ridiculous. He is a complete outlier on that. I'll have to go find that chart
when
too.
When he gets sacked, it's surprising.
It really genuinely is.
Legitimately surprising. Like, wow, he got sacked.
If the wrecking ball brings in the entire front three, then yeah, okay, they sacked him and it was bizarre. But when it feels like the offense doesn't have its primary read for Mahomes, where you don't have that easy, not just the easy completion, but the easy relationship. Again, you can trust your receiver. We've talked about this so much, I know, but that aspect of it not being there continues to me to make it feel like this offense just isn't, it's not quite settled yet. And I think that's having a larger effect on how we think and talk about the offense.
So a couple of numbers that would make you think that the offense was, better. Last year they converted, just over 69% in the red zone. This year they're at 63%. But literally one more touchdown would put him at almost 69%.
Patrick Mahomes keeps his cleats up.
That's a great
there you
point.
go. Boom, we're back.
That's a great point, yeah. So then I guess what would 12 of 18 be? So yeah, so it's 67%. So almost. Last year, they converted 48.7% of their third downs. This year, they're converting 51.5% of their third downs. So they're converting more third downs. They're scoring in the red zone at almost the exact same clip as they did a year ago. They're better on third and one to short than they were a year ago. Yet they're still inconsistent. And that's why I said get them now. Because once the wide receivers and everything start rolling, I think this offense starts rolling. The defense isn't letting up. James Palmer next. right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. We will talk with Mick Schaefer coming up an hour from now. Right now, let's talk with NFL Network's James Palmer joining us here in the zone on this Wednesday. James, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
I've missed you guys. I haven't done a Chiefs game yet this year. I don't know what's going on.
When does
my team apparently the last 5 years?
Yes, you were like the Patrick Mahomes follower. You're like Pedro Gomez to Barry Bonds, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, now you got a different assignment. Do you have one in the future here in Kansas City, or at least even on the road with the Chiefs game?
I'll be there on Thursday.
There
so
you go.
Pumped.
Heck yeah.
I'm back. Let's do it.
That's awesome. Well, let's start with that. The streak has been talked about for a number of years around here. And Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and the other players at the podium yesterday were asked about it, and they all just sort of said what you would expect, that we don't talk about that. It doesn't matter what happened in the years past. Right now, this is a good Broncos team that they're preparing for, that it's a divisional game. That means the physicality is turned up, the speed is turned up. This stretch of football for 15 straight for the Chiefs over the Broncos, it's really something that it could not be predicted and is shocking, quite frankly, with the rivalry between these two squads. What do you make of just these 8 years of wins for the Chiefs? And they haven't all been blunt. I mean, there have been some close games. Last year, the Broncos went 5-12, James, and the Chiefs won both those games by one score.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it from both sides. One, it's, a lot of it has to do with Patrick Mahomes and what he's done. I mean, he's got, 11 straight himself. He's never lost to the Broncos in his career. That plays a big part of it in his arrival, and that coinciding with everybody in Denver going, man, we are a historic franchise. And I don't think anybody in the country would argue. The Broncos are one of the marquee franchises of the NFL. There's only a few of them, and they're one of them. And since Peyton Manning retired, that's where we've been for 15 straight, and that's what the Broncos have been trapped in terms of a team that has not been able to find a quarterback, has, in a lot of people's minds in Denver and across the NFL, maybe missed when they went out and traded and gave a max contract to Russell Wilson with what they've seen out of him in a season and a few games here in the second season with the Denver Broncos. It's kind of, you can look at it from two sides. Denver has just gotten terrible, really, really bad, specifically offensively. I don't want to say defensively, and that's because of, you mentioned the games that are close. Ask Patrick Mahomes what it was like facing Vic Fangio those few years, twice a year. He hated it. I mean, he hated facing Vic Fangio. Vic really did, you could say, even though he didn't win those games, had Pat's number in terms of how his defenses played against him. But the offense just obviously wasn't there at all. And now you could almost say the Chiefs could beat the Broncos with either their offense or their defense this coming Thursday, because both are better than either unit the Broncos are going to put out there on Thursday.
Yeah, it's a good point about the Vic Fangio. The last 7 matchups between the Chiefs and the Broncos, the Chiefs have hit 30 points only twice in that one. So, I mean, the numbers back up Patrick Mahomes talking about Vic Fangio. It's been one of those things that has, been at least a positive on the Broncos side. And one of those things that Patrick Mahomes has talked about, that particular defense. The defense for the Chiefs has been a big story around here, James, and that is because of how good they've been and how quickly they've been this good. Typically, Steve Spagnuolo defenses take a little time to, ramp up. It's more of a slow burn. And they have come right out of the gates, and they are playing phenomenal football. And, we've talked about that it feels like the Chiefs' defense has won them a couple of games already, and you couldn't really say that very often in Patrick Mahomes' tenure. And we've wondered for a while, what would a Chiefs team look like with Patrick Mahomes if they had a legit good defense? Doesn't have to be top 5, but not just, hey, middle of the pack, which is always the way we describe it, right? Just middle of the pack defense for Patrick Mahomes. Do they have that this year? What we're seeing in the first 5 games, is there, in your mind, staying power to what this Chiefs defense is?
It's almost flipped this year, it seems like, right? It's almost like, well, let's see how the offense gets better as the season goes on, and all these new pieces with Patrick around him, and they build that chemistry. That's what we've always said about these Steve Spagnuolo defenses over the last couple of years. Spags is such a great coach that he starts figuring things out, finds a way to have them playing their best football come December, and then they get rocking. I mean, I remember it wasn't that many years ago when I was watching Tyrann Mathieu just huck his helmet across the field at FedEx Field in Washington, when through, I think, 5 or 6 games, the Chiefs were on pace to be giving up more yards per play than any team in the history of the NFL. That was just a few years ago. That's the way they were starting, and they were always getting better. This is the best defense in Patrick Mahomes' career. And I don't think it's really even an argument or a debate right now that this is the best unit he's ever played with. And I think you're going to see maybe, and this is what I'm curious about, because I make more comparisons of Pat to Brady than any other quarterback, because I do think they're wired similarly. Will he go out and do things that Brady would do certain years when he had dominant defenses? Like, there were years that Tom had unbelievable top 5 defenses that Bill Belichick was running, and he would change his game a little bit. He would make sure that defense was not put in difficult spots, that if teams had to drive the length of the field on them, there was a good chance they weren't going to put up points. So Tom was more protective of the football. They ran the ball more. They did certain things offensively to make sure that they didn't hurt a really, really good defense that could help them win. And I'm curious if Patrick does something like that, if he sees, this defense. And I'm not saying you sit out there and you play conservative, right? But that's what great players do. They kind of see what their entire team is, and they may just tweak a little thing here or there because they don't have to do certain things. There's certain years Brady went out and threw for 5,000 yards, right? Yeah. Other years where he goes, if I hand it off for 40 times a game, we're going to the Super Bowl. I'm curious if Pat starts getting wired like that, because I think he does have that mentality in terms of, like, numbers are less important than championships. I do think he has that. And so I'm curious to see how he works with this defense that is so much better than really any other unit he's played with. And you're right. They're off to a strong start, which makes me think, if you look at the history of Spags and they keep getting better as years go on, if this is the same this year, this team's going to keep getting better on that side of the ball. That'll be something to see.
James Palmer is our guest from NFL Network. The trade deadline it's still a little less than 3 weeks away, but it has sort of ramped up in conversations that are going on about different teams that might be buyers or sellers. Do you think there will be at some point an emphasis from whether it be the league or the teams to maybe push back the trade deadline a couple of weeks? Because it still feels like, even though it's 3 weeks away, it still feels like it's so early in the season. And I know last year people were wondering, the Lions, are they going to sell? And Hawkinson heads to the Vikings, and the Lions were 1-6, and then they, doesn't feel like they've lost since. I mean, it just at the trade deadline.
Yeah, they've won 12 of 15.
It's great, and they beat the Chiefs, obviously. Is there any talk about maybe moving it back a couple of weeks when teams maybe feel more solidified as to what their role is going to be this year? Or that particular year?
I mean, it's a really good argument to make, honestly, especially with the season getting longer and extended by a game, and the way the postseason is. And so, I mean, it's definitely something that I don't know firsthand if it's been discussed at 345 Park. I would assume it's probably something that has been debated, because you're right, teams are having to decide sooner than probably they would like on whether they're sellers or not. I mean, that you could say that about the team the Chiefs are playing on Thursday. Right. I mean, Denver could essentially be, and players I've talked to in that locker room believe they're going to be in teardown mode, which they believe they're going to be dishing out some, looking to maybe part ways with a couple veterans. And so you look at a team that goes on a late run, like, say, Jacksonville last year, or Detroit, who you brought up. You're having to decide as an organization, like, do we make some moves for draft capital the next year sooner than probably we want? And the biggest discussion we always have in the NFL is, like, making sure teams don't tank, and you're making them decide things sooner than probably you'd like. Those kind of go hand in hand a little bit, don't they? Like, so it's kind of an interesting argument. I haven't really thought about it or discussed it much until you asked me, and now I'm fascinated. I'm not going to lie. It is something that you're putting general managers in a position to where, what do they want to do first and foremost? Keep their job. So if you start selling off players and then you go on a run, you go, man, I really wish we would have had such and such. We only got a fourth for him or a fifth for him. We're now on a run. We wish we had him in the building. Then you start second guessing things. If it was a little later, it could bode well, actually, for some of the teams that have to make these moves. But you don't want to be too late. That's the other thing. It can't be too late in the season to where it could be a bit of an issue.
Yeah, I mean, you want it to still, if a team's going to acquire a player, does it make an impact? And the reason I brought it up, we talked about it last week, and I was just, we were discussing, like, man, the trade deadline's October 31st, and we were actually talking about it from the standpoint of the Bengals before they played the Cardinals. And I'm like, they're sitting here 1-3. If they were to drop the next couple of games, and I don't think they'll drop the next couple of games, but we'll see. If they were to lose to the Cardinals and Seahawks go into the bye, they've got San Francisco on the road after that, and then the trade deadline 2 days after that. Like, do they move T. Higgins? Do they make decisions like that?
Look where they're at now.
And
after 1
exactly,
week.
yeah. Now they're 2-3. They beat Seattle. They're back to 500, and they're like, "Hey, look, we've done this before. This is old hat for us, And it looked like Burrow was much more healthy in that Arizona game, so that's why we ended up talking about it. But the Vikings they're sitting 1-4 right now, and they had an opportunity this last week to knock off the Chiefs, and they head to Chicago this weekend, but then San Francisco's right after that, and then on the road at Green Bay, on the road at Atlanta. As the trade deadline hits, is Kirk Cousins going to finish the season in Minnesota, or is that going to be the biggest player that's sort of that conversation around is Kirk Cousins?
Well, the way the contracts and the finances have always gone, Kirk has always been the discussed player in a lot of these things, right? Throughout his career, and it is funny because you look at that team and I don't quote me directly, but I think they had more one-score wins than any team in football. I think they maybe had like 11. And now they've lost a lot of those. And you go, man, well, a year ago we were a playoff team and we were winning a lot of these, really, really close games. And now let's just say the law of averages are working against us. And now we're getting back towards the middle. Does that mean like we should be sellers? You know what I mean? Like it makes you almost kind of scratch your head and go like, well, how quickly did this flip, and now we have to have a completely different mindset as an organization when we were in the postseason a year ago with almost the same team? I think you look at what they've done and, like, the move to go, like, pick up Dalton Reisner on their offensive line and a couple of the other small things that they've done. It doesn't give me the mindset that they're sellers, in all honesty, just by looking at if you look at what they've done transactionally over the last maybe 2-3 weeks. But you're right. Things in the league change so quickly. I do think that's a winnable division. I mean, that's not like a division where I think the Lions are the best, but it's a winnable division. So it's a hard spot. I think he does finish the season there. Everybody was saying the Jets, right, a little while ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. I think that died down tremendously. I think the doing the game with the Jets and the Broncos this past Sunday and talking to people in that organization, I kind of think they're sticking with Zach Wilson. They've figured a couple of things out that they can be serviceable with him, and as good as that run game is and as good as that defense is, that they can really compete probably. And so I don't see who's going to go do it, in my opinion, and make that move. So I would say he'd finish the season with the Vikings.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fascinating to watch. And James Palmer's our guest from the NFL Network. As we look at the AFC, Miami's 4-1 and the Chiefs are 4-1 right now. I mean, the Chiefs would be the number one seed currently if the season were to end. But, Buffalo's right there. And as we talked about, Cincinnati looks like they're figuring some things out. And Jacksonville got a big win against Buffalo. As you look at the AFC, as it starts to sort of clear out a little bit and become a little bit more clear in the picture of this conference, are the Chiefs still at the top? Have the Dolphins passed them up? Even though Buffalo's 3-2, are you looking at them being the best team? Like, how does the top of the AFC sit for you through 5 weeks?
I think Kansas City's still at the top, and it's because of Mahomes, and it's because of Andy Reid, and it's because that. I put them in a similar spot as Philadelphia right now. When you're not probably clicking the way you want to, on all cylinders, but you're still winning games. I mean, Philly's doing the exact same thing. Like they're not playing the way they want to offensively. With they have a new coordinator on both sides of the ball, and they're still figuring some things out, but they're still winning. And that's because you got a really good head coach, you got a really good quarterback, and you got a really good culture in your building. And I think Philly and KC are kind of in that same boat where they're not playing their best football. But we all know they're really, really good. And so I will say that, Kansas City's still probably the best team in the AFC. I was really thinking if Baltimore went and won that game against Pittsburgh, they were in the driver's seat of that division and in a great spot. They would have had a road win over every team in the division already by week 5. And that would have put them in just the driver's seat of that really, really tough AFC North. But them losing that game kind of like even things out in that division a little bit. I really don't ever sleep on Joe Burrow. Like they can go on a run. They've done it a million times before. I just think Kansas City's above Miami for a few things. Like when push comes to shove, and we kind of saw it in that Buffalo game, I don't know if Tua can go out there and win you a game. I know Pat can go out there and win you a game. And that's where I kind of separate a little bit between the two teams. And then, I mean, Buffalo suffered some really brutal injuries in that game in London that I think are going to change the course of their defense. Matt Milano is not one of the best defensive players in football. He's one of the best players in football.
He's awesome.
And that's just a massive, massive loss for them. We know they've lost Tre'Davious White, and they've definitely had some injuries on that defense that we saw can be really, really good. So I think that hurts them. I think Jacksonville has all the talent in the world. The way they've played defensively up front in those 2 games in London, and it doesn't surprise me at all that Doug Peterson would go over to London for 2 straight weeks and get his team right. Like, that's just the type of coach he is. He's just really good at, figuring things out there, kind of reading their clippings early on. But if you go and look at the skill guys that Trevor Lawrence has around him, I mean, you could put that group up against anybody in football, maybe excluding I wouldn't even say excluding the Niners. I mean, the Niners have probably the best skill group in football, but you go look at it, it's like Calvin Ridley and Evan Ingram, and you've seen Travis Etienne now burst onto the scene in terms of running and catching the football, and Christian Kirk, and like Zay Jones. You got a lot of weapons there. I think they put points up. If they can play good defensively up front, they're a dangerous team. So I'm not going to rank them. Casey's at the top, but those are the teams that I'm looking at right now. But the other one I wouldn't sleep on is the Chargers. If they figure out a way to stop giving up explosive plays, I think you've seen this marriage between Kellen Moore and Justin Herbert go really, really well, really quickly.
Yeah,
they're going to put points on the board.
Yeah, and it's a big one coming up a week from Sunday for the Chiefs and Chargers. I mean, they take care of business against the Broncos, set up a 5-1, and if the Chargers take care of business, 5-1 and 3-2. And all of a sudden,
that's a huge swing game.
Yep, absolutely. You can be tied there at the top of the division with the Chargers having the early tiebreaker. So that's a huge one for the Chiefs there. If the Chiefs at the top, how much is that? James Palmer's our guest, NFL Network. Last one for you. How much is that the NFL and the league sort of rigging it and making sure the Chiefs are winning every single week with the refs and the penalties that gives them the advantage being at the top of the AFC? In your mind,
the script,
the script, yeah, for sure.
Listen. Just go ask everybody in New England what it feels like if you're in Kansas City right now. What it felt like to be in New England.
That's what we've joked about.
Because that's what everybody always said. And you know what? I hate to say it, being an impartial person to it, you do get a little bit of that vibe. Like, you know why you get that vibe is because they're consistently in a position for a call to go their way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, they're consistently always in a position in every game for a big call to possibly go their way. And when you're well coached and you do things the right way and you have a quarterback who plays the way that both of those guys played, man, you become the hated. I'm not going to lie. And everybody thinks everything falls your way. And that's the way they see it. And, yeah, it's a wild spot to be in.
Yeah.
But I don't think you hate it in Kansas City at all.
No, it's not at all. I joked a couple of times that you go back to draft day of 2017 and you say, all right, you can continue what you're doing right now and being near the top of the AFC West with Alex Smith and Andy Reid, and it's certainly a more organized franchise now than what it was, or you can draft this guy and you can win Super Bowls and be the top of the league and be hated, and people think that you don't have legit wins, but you've got Lombardi trophies, but you'll be hated, and there's going to be a conspiracy that the NFL is rigging it for you. You take that deal? Of course.
Yeah.
Everybody takes that deal. Yes, we've watched
That's
the
Clark
Patriots.
Hunt how much money he's making.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, right. And now with Taylor Swift, all the Chiefs gear getting bought, Clark Hunt's loving it. Maybe he was the matchmaker. I don't know. Andy Reid said he set him up.
Yeah, good call.
Maybe Clark Hunt set him up. I don't know. James Palmer, NFL Network. James, you're the man. Appreciate it. Enjoy the game on Thursday night, and we will talk soon.
Sounds good. Take it easy.
All right, there's James Palmer, NFL Network, joining us as we talk some Chiefs and Broncos coming up tomorrow night. Here at Arrowhead Stadium, a little Thursday night football. We will take a timeout. We'll come back and we'll continue throughout this hour, and then we'll hang out with Mick Schaefer coming up in the 1 o'clock hours. We head up till 2 o'clock on this Wednesday edition of the show. More Zone right after this. It's Sports Radio 810 WHB. All right. Thank you to James Palmer, right here on Sports Radio 810 WH. My headphones weren't working. I thought the mic was off. I'm like, all right, I couldn't hear myself, and I
This thing on?
have no snare.
Hey, speaking of, I just did a couple cuts for
Oh, good.
the commercial break.
Looking forward to that. 913-912-4810. Thank you to James Palmer joining us as we talk some NFL football with James Palmer. We also talked some Major League Baseball in the first hour. Talked with Cynthia Freeland in the 11 o'clock hour as well. And we will hang out with Mick Schaefer coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. I wanted to play this clip because it's pretty good. It's going around the internet with James Franklin. This is... Let me just tell you, if you're in the media room and you're or on the Zoom call or whatever it was with this, because it's like on a phone call or whatever, with a coach, and you start down a road of asking a question, and the coach feels like, the hell are you talking about? You're in a tough position.
It's tough.
And you might want to like sort of eject, because this question is very much just a couple of guys talking and like, you know what? Just freaking throw it deep, man. Just take a shot. So here it is. Here's James Franklin at his press conference yesterday. And Corey Anderson, who's covering Penn State now, I'm guessing, asking the question to James Franklin.
Hey, good afternoon, James.
Hey, Corey.
A follow-up to what you were just asked there about Drew. Is there a balance, though, between, hey, we need you to throw the ball deep no matter. Just take a shot. Don't overthink it. Take a shot. We need to see it. We're going to call it. And we need you to get some confidence in doing this, as opposed to even giving a young quarterback the chance to say, hey, just check it down if it's not there.
I don't really understand what you're saying, because we would never, like my skin is curling when you say just drop back and chuck it deep no matter what. Like that is like, I don't even know what you're saying. It's like you're speaking like from
just
Mars.
Just send a guy in a post pattern, take the shot, throw it.
No matter what.
Give your receiver a chance to make a play on a ball. Even if he might be covered 30 yards down the field, maybe you think he'll be open 45 yards down the field, and like Godwin did, or with Jahan or KJ.
I still don't, like, you're speaking Japanese. We have never done that. Just throw the ball up and maybe he'll be open and maybe he'll catch. Like, my skin is you're making me uncomfortable. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So okay. Yeah, we would not do that. We would never do that. We've never thought about doing that as a head coach, as an offensive coordinator, as a receivers coach. I coached the receivers. I didn't want them to do that. So no, strong no. No.
Strong no. No, I'm just saying, just like throw it deep. Just take a shot. Just throw it down, no matter what. Like, just throw it, no matter what. Just throw it deep. And that is such a, guys hanging out. Talk. Why don't you just throw it deep, man? Just take a shot. You know what, Corey? Why don't you ask Coach about that? Just throw it deep. Get some confidence. He doesn't seem to be confident in throwing it deep. So just throw it deep. Just take a shot. Because gaining confidence would just be heaving it deep if it's intercepted. Like, my skin's crawling when you're asking that.
He didn't say curling, which is a whole new phrase. Sorry. I'm not familiar with.
You're from Mars. Like,
you're making me uncomfortable.
Yeah,
is one of the most savage things I've ever heard in a press conference, and I think it was just honest. I just think it was exactly what James Franklin was feeling there.
And obviously he knows the guy.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what's up, Corey? Hey, guy. If you're in a game and you're just like, got to play. You ever tell your quarterback just to throw it deep no matter what?
You ever run a yeet route?
You ever called the YOLO? Just freaking fire it deep no matter what.
And look, I understand. Maybe he's going to be covered 30 yards downfield.
But what about
15 more yards?
What about 45 yards down the field?
Maybe just have your quarterback just put it on a dot, just put it on a platter 40 yards downfield in tight coverage?
He looks covered 30 yards down the field, but if you tell him throw it no matter what, he doesn't see that the receiver's going to be open 15 yards later. This seems simple, James. How are you not getting this?
I love a lot of sports video games, right? Like I there's a good range from, from Tecmo Bowl to how far Madden has come and then how far Madden has fallen and all. Like there's just a lot of good sports video games that feel good to play. And sometimes you think, I'm throwing at the B no matter what. He's just running it. He's running it go.
So
and
bad.
I have been adding points to him for a year now. This entire season just been getting my number one receiver's speed all the way up. So he's gonna start running. I'm gonna tap B. We're gonna arc this thing and we're gonna see what happens. I don't think that's happening in college football meeting rooms. Corey,
just throw it deep. Why did just no matter what, just fire it deep. Just throw it, man. See what you got. Because if you do, I just love what if he's guarded 30 yards down the field and then he would be open like 45 yards down the field? Like, well, you know what? That might be something that they want him to do, but it wouldn't be a no matter what. Right. Because is the safety over there? Do we have one-on-one? Is that the matchup we want? But we're not, because he needs to get confidence and do it. Confidence in doing it, just simply throw it deep, just do it. Doesn't matter. See what you got. See what happens. Just throw it deep, see what happens.
There's so many other ways you could ask that question. And like this part, if you're outside of media here, I don't know if this is going to sound nitpicky or not, but like just please trust us. This is part of the job. A huge part of the job is asking the question in a way that isn't going to make the guy at the table physically uncomfortable. Like part of the game, even if you have an agenda, you have a question that you have an answer you're trying to get, that happens sometimes. Sometimes you think, I know this is what's going on, but I need to get the coach to speak on it, whatever. Part of it is that relationship and your ability as a public speaker or whatever is to ask the question in a way that you might be able to get some of the information you're looking for. You can ask, open-ended. Coaches, is there any advantage to maybe letting your quarterback get a little riskier on some of those downfield 50-50 balls, or would you rather the confidence be that he never turns the ball over? How do you manage that? The aggressiveness versus the confidence. You get he's got routes. I haven't watched any Penn State football this year, and I just came up with that just now.
So, and I don't know if there was an assumption that the Penn State quarterback is lacking confidence throwing it deep, but if that's the assumption of sort of what we're working off of, then it could be, James, as, had some issues with throwing it deep and some confidence. How do you go about instilling that?
How do
in
you
a player?
build that? Yes.
Are there plays set in specifically that it's just we are going to take a shot on this play if we get the look that we want? Is it just naturally he's going to develop that? Like, how do you go about getting confidence in a player in taking a shot and throwing it deep if he doesn't believe that he can do that, if it's there? I mean, just like...
Jason, just, look, you've had some issues with your voice this week. You weren't in on Monday.
I was not, actually.
It's been a little bit of a challenge. Obviously,
I was out on Monday.
You really been fighting through it. You guys ever think about in the zone? You guys ever think about just taking a segment off?
That's making my skin crawl. We've never.
Strong no.
Strong no is so great. A strong no. He said no like 10 times. No. No. Strong no.
Strong no.
No. No. No.
Like my skin is like you're making me uncomfortable.
But like you talk like 4 hours all day, and you got to book so many guests.
No.
You play the commercials. I know that, but you guys ever want to take 10 or 15 minutes and just let it be quiet on air, and you guys just sort of take care of yourselves?
Yeah, I would love to actually.
No.
Actually, that's a yes. I would love to. That would be great. That's when we have Mick in. That's called sports or leisure, everybody. Sports or leisure. Texas play call is bleep it. Lambert Smith down there somewhere. Just fire it deep, man. Texas. I bet Coach Reed told Patrick that a few times.
Sure. Yeah. No, Pat. No matter what,
yes,
chuck this downfield.
Texas, this is what happens when fantasy football players ask questions at a press conference.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he just take a shot? Just take a shot. Take a shot. Take one shot.
And like
Like, I feel like James Franklin wanted to take a shot listening to that.
No kidding. Coach, do you ever make a little extra point to make sure you do have some opportunities for those deep shots to develop? There's just so many ways you could ask that question.
And you knew it was going bad when he's like, what are you talking about right now? Nothing, thanks, Coach.
Yeah. Like, hey, let me.
I'll get back to you later.
And if you do have that
Let me
relationship,
go regroup.
hey, yeah, Coach. Let me. You know what? Let me pick that up let me rephrase that a little bit because.
I'm going to go back to the drawing board on that one. Let me try that one again.
We're doing our best out here.
See if I can regroup with that.
Sometimes you may have a crappy question. You just got to ask it. You just got to take that crappy question. You got to chuck it downfield no matter what.
I asked Scott Pioli when he hired Todd Haley. It was at the coach's press conference, so everybody was listening. It was very embarrassing. And I heard about it for a while, as I should. I should have heard about it for a while.
I don't think I know this story.
But I was trying to ask about Todd Haley's coaching candidate sort of resume that he had moved up the ladder, right? Moving up the ladder, now offensive coordinator, somebody that, this last year has really put himself on the radar of GMs. That was really just a generic question.
So it's a good question to ask at a head coach's instructor press conference.
But for whatever reason, when I was going to say ladder, coaching tree is talked about, and I said tree. And as I'm asking the question, Scott Pioli stops and goes, "I'm sorry, tree? What are you talking about with this tree?" I said, guess I was probably going for ladder there.
Did you get to ladder in the rest of the question? Did you get the question off?
I blacked out. I don't even remember at that point. I'll be honest with you. I blacked out. I mean, I was doing night show. I was filling in here.
Yeah.
I was covering the Chiefs, but it wasn't like, I wasn't Seren having a show or Steven out there at postgame and asking a question is like, I could go right on the air and like, bleep up. And I just blacked out. I don't even know what happened. But I know that after the press conference, it was back when Seren would have lunches on Friday, right? When he was doing the midday show. He doesn't do lunch anymore, which is ridiculous. I've left here at 2:00 so many times trying to meet him for lunch, but he's like, "Oh, I'm working now." Jerk.
If he just took my advice, we just had some radio silence.
And I showed up, and the guys were sort of sitting there in silence. And I walked in, and I knew it was, and I'm like, whatever. And they looked at me, and Seren said something about, "So you get to the bottom of that tree?"
Oh!
And then everybody just started laughing. I'm like, "Yeah, oh no, I deserve it. I deserve it." I have no idea what the hell I was saying.
I mean, now we know, and we know it's sometimes the word you want just isn't there. We all talk a lot in recorded media where other people get to hear it.
Dude, it was so bad because everybody's listening to the introductory press conference for the Chiefs.
Did you introduce yourself? Or at the end, did you say, by the way, courtesy Bolt Sports Radio 810? It's radio. Nobody knows what you look like.
By the way, Coach, just want to introduce Nate Buchanan.
Hi, I'm Nate Buchanan.
Nate Buchanan, Sports Radio 810. I'm on in the mornings. You'll hear me with Stephen St. John. And if you really want to hear a talented individual, listen to the night show at night.
That James Anderson.
I should have introduced myself as somebody else.
Oh,
I know, but it was a because at that time it was going around the room, and as you ask a question, it's Jason Anderson, Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Hey Jason, who's in Kansas City right now?
I have no idea.
Jason Anderson is.
James.
Where's Scott Pioli? Where's Todd Haley? Huh? Sounds
I
like your tree had roots, Jason.
I don't think there's a correlation.
Your tree had roots.
Yeah, but their bank accounts are different.
Yeah, well, we could all wear a dirty hat for a couple of years, get fired, and given a whole bunch of money. I think we'd all take it.
Trying to figure out what this guy's talking about with the tree.
What kind of tree? Mine gets so close to Bill Clinton every time.
I know.
My Todd Haley is like 2% away from Bill Clinton.
Yes.
Just a little sadder.
Yeah, and then also there's a Matthew McConaughey who was probably take my shirt off right about now.
It's a triangle of
Got to be some reason for me to go ahead and take my shirt off.
I was the president or the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. All right.
Okay, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back.
Oh, do you want to do something first before we take a timeout?
I don't actually. I just want to.
Jason, I would love it if you would. You have the piece of paper. Oh God, I'd love it. I would love it if we would do this thing.
How about
because
this?
We got a good thing to give the people.
Let's give something away for those that have endured this Wednesday.
That's great point. Great point. If you sat through this whole segment, you should get to win something right here.
So the phone number is 913-381-810.
Hello.
And how about the World of Outlaws Micro Light Harvest Rumble at Lakeside Speedway coming up on October 14th? Hey, that's just a few days away.
Sure is.
That's Saturday. World of Outlaws Micro Light Harvest Rumble at Lakeside Speedway this Saturday. Racing begins at 7:30. And we've got a pair or, you know what, 2?
How about this, Jason?
What?
Let's give away 3 pairs.
3 pairs of tickets. Are you bleeping me right now?
I'm not bleeping you.
Wednesday.
Makes my skin curl to think about not giving away 3 pairs of tickets right now.
Hard no. Yes. Hard yes. 913-381-810. Let's do caller 5, 8, and 10.
I think that's great. Cairo Santos and then 810.
Yes. 5, 8, and 10. 913-381-810 is the phone number. 913-381-810. A pair of tickets to the World of Outlaws Micro Light Harvest Rumble at Lakeside Speedway coming up Saturday, October 14th. 5, 8, and 10. Win a pair of tickets. That's going on right now. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. Mick Schaefer will be hanging out with us in the 1 o'clock hour on this Tuesday. We will we'll talk some college football and expected to talk about some college basketball and KU the infractions are expected to come down at any minute now. It was expected around 2 o'clock Eastern time, 1 o'clock Central time, that the IARP would finally make public the final case for their short-lived tenure on cases involving Memphis and North Carolina State and Arizona, LSU, and now the Kansas Jayhawks, and what the punishments will be. They were supposed to be on a timetable of 4 months. That you meet with them, 4 months later, you get whatever the punishment is levied. And there's no appealing at the IARP. So in the NCAA cases, if you get something you don't like, you can appeal. There is no appealing in IARP. That was one of the conditions of this whole thing, was that it did not go through NCAA. It went through independent investigators and things like that. But there was no appeals process. KU met in April. So 4 months would have been in August. So this is now a 6-month timetable. This has been the longest of the other cases to meet with the panel and then eventually the penalties made public. It's also the school that hasn't fired those around or involved in that. It's a school with 5 level 1 violations levied against them, including the lack of institutional control and and including Bill Self's failed head coach responsibility. That are the allegations there. And so we'll see what the penalties and the infractions will be. The IARP has made it clear that they are not giving out postseason bans. In fact, the only postseason ban that was given out was Oklahoma State. That was for something that was much, much less egregious, but it was through the NCAA. It was not through the IARP. The NCAA being very punitive. If this was through the NCAA, KU would be facing, I think, multiple postseason bans. But the IRP has already stated a couple of times that they are not wanting to punish the current athletes for the crimes and the issues from the previous players and things like that. You don't want to punish the son for the sins of the father. And NC State, Arizona, Memphis, things like that, what they got were heavy financial penalties, recruiting restrictions, scholarship reductions, and vacated wins. I expect that to be the same thing with KU, and I expect the reaction to be, that's it? Mm-hmm. Because Bill Self and Curtis Townsend have served a 4-game suspension. They levied some pretty decent recruiting restrictions on themselves the summer before the 2022 season. So last summer, there were some pretty decent, and I think some through the season as well. They've docked themselves 3 scholarships already. What I think would bother KU and Bill Self is the 15 games that Sylvia DeSouza played in, including the 2018 Final Four banner, which I do expect to come down. They have been vacating the win, so I do think retroactively they will deem him ineligible, and those games will be vacated. That would be my guess. The banner would come down, but we all know what happened. We all know they went to the Final Four. Who cares if I know that can be bothersome, but let me tell you this. As somebody who roots for a team that doesn't have one, put it up and take it down all you want. I don't care. Get there and hang it. You can rip that thing down. You can burn it. I don't give a bleep if you put it up. It happened. 2013's national championship team happened. KU was in the Final Four in 2018. It happened.
It's not Back to the Future. The T-shirts you bought then, those stay. Those will not fade off into the ether.
That's right.
The memories, you're not going to get Men in Blacked. This is still in there.
What I do think would bother Bill Self or KU would be if they lose the 15 games, they go 8 games behind Kentucky for the most wins all time. Because right now they're 7 games above. So they would slide back behind UK again. And technically their 33 straight NCAA appearances streak would be snapped.
Ooh.
Because they would vacate those games and technically not make the tournament. It would be a technicality. We would all know that it was intact. But from the NCAA standpoint, the consecutive tournament streak would not have KU at the top anymore.
The actual
33.
Technical record book
Yeah.
would not have KU there anymore.
Is the way I understand it.
But I think even the TBS, TNT, whatever broadcasts would probably, the lower third, I think, would say, 34 consecutive appearances, asterisk, this one vacated after the fact. That's how most of us are going to handle it, right?
And Louisville, it's like the national championships. Well, this one vacated. Like, they won.
That's the way to do it. You want to do it for Barry Bonds or whatever, which I do. Can we get into Barry Bonds getting to the Hall of Fame next hour, please? It's about time somebody talks about it.
Once we adjudicate the Pete Rose stuff.
That's true. We got to go in chronological order.
LeBron Jordan as well.
Oh, I would love to hit LeBron Jordan.
We haven't even started that one. There is so much meat on the bone for LeBron Jordan.
And
can't wait to get into that one.
I think it's time to fix baseball. Somebody should step in and do it. I mean, the kids aren't watching the playoffs.
Nope, they're not. They're not.
How long has it been since you've thought about Billy Preston? I've thought about.
That is a great question.
I've thought about the musician more recently than I've thought about the basketball player.
This investigation started when the Chiefs had only beaten the Broncos 3 games in a row. And it's going to wrap up maybe the day before they go to 16 straight.
The Zone is brought to you by Guaranteed Foods, official sponsor of Family Mealtime. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels, Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director joining us. Hi, Mick.
What's up, guys?
Oh, not much. Not much. My voice is better than what it was Sunday.
Still not all the way back.
No.
But yeah, no, we're getting there.
I told Josh when I got home, I said, hey, man, I don't think I'm going to be able to do the show tomorrow. I had my oh bleep moment that, I was just talking regular with the guys, and then we went on the air, and then I tried to enunciate, and my voice was not there, and I thought it was my Carl Lewis national anthem. Thought, uh-oh, this is not going to be good. So, yeah, it was very, very distracting. I apologize for Sunday Sound Off for ruining the whole thing.
You killed it. Yeah, we had to we sent you home and we had to go redo it. We called in somebody else. called in somebody else. Soren came in. He was more than happy.
That's right, and did it live.
Yeah, did it live.
It was great.
No, it's funny because what'd you call it? Your oblique moment?
No, my bleep
moment.
I don't came from your oblique.
Diaphragm.
Because as soon as you started talking from your diaphragm, there was
as soon as I
there.
started talking, I'm like, oh. Bleep. I didn't realize it was this bad because we were just having if we're just having a conversation like this, and it's like, all right, welcome back here. Well, Mick, when it's time to change. Yeah. So I appreciate you putting up with me.
You should just use your regular voice all the time. We don't
Apparently.
need your TV and radio voice, Jason.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right. I tried to adjust because as I was watching Daniel Sperry talk, I'm like, oh, he's just talking regular.
Yeah, and
what's that like?
Yeah.
Weirdo.
He's not like Anchorman. That's weird.
Well, Mick!
People don't know this, but in the breaks, Jason enunciates like Lil Uzi Vert. Like, it is just, there's a mumble rapper in here.
He's got a quiet Scottish accent. You wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it.
It's totally weird. He actually is constantly Denny Matthews when he's off the air. I guess I'll go take a leak. I'll be right back. Hey, Dylan, how long have we got in this break? All right, I'm going to be gone for about 3 minutes. Thanks. Ding, ding. That's right. All right, welcome back here in the zone. How does he do it?
You could have done Sunday Sound Off as Todd Haley. You would have put no strain on your vocal cords at all.
Mick, I'm just happy to be here right now. Just
SVP was yanked because of a lost voice. Also, it's happening to all the great ones right now.
It's going around.
And me, all the great ones, and it also happened to me too. Like just gone. It was great. I did love Mick was like, well, it sounds like somebody was doing a lot of cheering from 11 to 3 yesterday.
I said a lot of yelling.
A lot of yelling. That's what
you were cheering from 11 to 2, yelling from 2 to 3.
Yeah. No, well, I think people would be shocked at how much I don't talk during games. Really? How I just sit there and just watch the game.
He hangs upside down like a bat.
Yeah, I just sit there and watch the game. It was a lot, man. It was probably back in the 2000 aughts, that I went to a game and was cheering a lot. And the next day, it was like, wow, my voice is messed up, and I got a show to do. I think that's the last time I really screamed at a game to lose my voice. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, don't need to do that anymore. Plus, I mean, Missouri was winning most of the game. What's there to yell about? Just like, oh, okay, cool. Just take some notes. Yeah.
You can lose your voice cheering and being loud in a positive way. No. I lose it every Friday night.
I know you do.
Every Friday night.
You do.
And
good for
it usually
you,
comes back by Sunday. Usually.
That's because yours has been put through that. You're training your voice to go on Fridays and come back Sundays.
That's
and to
for
relax
Mill
on
Valley.
Saturday.
I can't imagine if they lost ever.
You can't.
You can't?
I recall
lost one
a couple
this
weeks
year.
back you were in.
They lost.
I was like, I don't want to rub your face in it. I just.
We're just wondering, like,
you've been through it.
Were you not there that day? Were you absent? I haven't seen anything with a release from the NCAA or anything yet.
Nope, I've been scrubbing through Twitter also.
Supposed to be at like 1 o'clock.
So you're saying this thing is delayed?
It is surprising because they've been very prompt so far. That when the FBI said, we have your playbook, that was September of 2017. That was 6 years ago that the FBI had the NCAA's playbook. And from that time to then finally giving out the penalties for the last school, they have actually okayed to do what Billy Preston and Sylvia DeSouza were doing.
Yes.
In that time frame.
Yet
still, we will have some penalties today because of it not being okay, it being against the rules when this whole thing happened. But 6 years later, they are finally getting to the end of this. And the IRP is going quietly into the dark night after their 4 cases.
It's like a marijuana case in Missouri that happened in 2017.
I was just going to say, it feels like prohibition.
Yes.
It feels like we're trying to figure out where that damn moonshine came from.
It's amazing. It's like Sylvia DeSouza. It's like, oh, that's all you got? No. I thought you were a pretty good player. That's all you got for going to KU? Oh, weird. Hunter Dickinson was like, people were thinking like I was getting all the 6 figures and stuff.
I was in my 30s working at Metro Sports when this thing was commissioned. The investigation started. Yeah,
that's nuts, man. 2017.
I'm on my third 3-year contract at KSHB right now. This is all. It's a true story. It's laughable.
It's unbelievable.
And so, I mean, the feeling is the longer it took, the softer the penalty would be.
Well, the IRP was just like,
we're new, and so we're just going to take our time, and we're going to go after this. So this is our swan song.
Yeah, and we're not going to punish the current players. We're going to give financial penalties to the university. We're going to give recruiting restrictions to the program. We're going to take some scholarships from the program. And we're going to vacate some wins in the past that happened with that particular player, but that really hurts the school and the coach. And, like, Kansas isn't giving back their Final Four rings. Like, the KU players don't – NCAA isn't going to, Reggie Bush and taking
a piece of cloth.
Yeah.
It's all – and where it's going to sit. Is it going to sit or is it going to hang?
Yeah.
It'll be folded up or –
in a back room somewhere.
It's going to be framed or hang.
Yeah. I watched it,
And so what if you say we don't have really get our maintenance guy up there. We're not going to take this down.
I have no idea.
I
have no idea what's.
Do they send people from Indianapolis with like big, huge NCAA scissors?
They take the bolt cutters and break open the lock on the door to Allen Fieldhouse and get in there and climb up the rafters and take the banner down.
What's stopping you from putting it right back up? It's like the end of Game of Thrones.
It's a great idea.
This guy banished, right? He banished Jon Snow to the north. And then he took off for like a 5-year-long trip back to his home. Like, well, who's making him go there? What's his honor? I guess is this what it's all about? Honor and a piece of cloth.
I would love to know what would happen if a school was just like, we're not
dumb. You in your
we're
books,
not actually going to do that.
You can take the eraser. Or you scribble out. You do whatever with your stuff.
Yeah, that's fine.
We're not changing anything.
Yeah.
Take a cue from sporting. Paint it on the wall. Spray paint it on the wall. Come paint over our wall at Allen Fieldhouse. You can't. We won't let you. This is a brilliant idea. Just get more and more dug in and disrespectful and irresponsible to the point that Bill Self ends up with all the Final Four appearances just tatted on the inside of his forearm.
Every bar in Lawrence is now, if they have to take down the banner, is just going to buy their own, make their own. You're going to hang banners all over Lawrence. Signs in the yard at Allen Fieldhouse. Yes, shirts 2018. Final Four all over the place.
One of the KU players should be sponsored by a 2018 Final Four banner.
Amazing.
And that would just be an NIL deal. I don't know who would do that, but that's what you would just wear around. It's like, I'm just sponsoring Adidas 2018 Final Four banner. With
you refreshing over there, Josh?
Yeah.
Everybody keeps refreshing.
The only things that I've seen that have been added have been KU people making jokes about the IARP being late once again. This is
it's just the 4-month timetable is what the other schools, what everybody was told. Was it Memphis, whoever it was, February, and then they got their sanctions in June, 4 months later. KU met in April, which is why everybody thought August. It's going to happen in August. It's going to be here in August. And it went in August. So now it's going to come out at 2 o'clock Eastern.
Well,
and
hopefully by 4, because that's when Bill Self and Travis Goff are talking.
Well, they're talking today because the infractions are coming out. So I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
hopefully it's out by 4.
Oh, I bet they probably have it.
You think?
I think they have it by now. I think they probably got it, but then there's probably, if you release the thing, there might be some redacted stuff and things that have officially become public with the NCAA, names blacked out and stuff like that, for the student athletes, because you don't want to know which one it is. So is it Billy Preston and Sylvia DeSouza? I don't know. I have no idea. You'd have to tell me because I can't read the name there. It's redacted. But yeah, I think they have a pretty good idea of what it is. And I don't think it's going to be a postseason ban or anything. Again, only Oklahoma State got screwed in this whole thing.
Right. That's how it always is.
Only Oklahoma State.
For breaking fewer rules and being more honest about it.
That's right. But not breaking enough rules to be sent to the IARP. That's the problem. You didn't do enough of it.
Caught jaywalking and put in the stockades.
Be a man. Break the rules. Like, if you're going to do it, do it. Like the rest of them, Mick. Come on. This whole dipping your toe in the water. Well, guess what? Now you're in jail. Dip your toe in the water.
It's like back in the day, if you had really stern parents, you would rather the cops deal with you getting caught drinking, right, than send you home to your mom and dad.
Right, yeah.
Right? And so the IRP is kind of the cops, like, you know what, we'll deal with you. Your mom and dad, they're going to swat you, right? You're going to be grounded, you're going to be done for doing all these chores. I don't want to go to the mom and dad NCAA. I want to go IRP cops.
I want to go to the IRP. Yes. Yeah, they're nice. They're actually looking at this like realistically. They're not just going, you know what, how do we just hammer these schools? But also they're doing it in a way that has, became, comedic.
It's sort of odd. There's not an official thing out from the IARP, but Pat Forty has a story here on SI.com. Headline being, Bill Self, Kansas avoids serious penalties in NCAA infractions case.
Well, I could have wrote that story.
The long-awaited Kansas men's basketball infractions case ruling is in, and the Jayhawks are walking away unscathed. I'm reading verbatim here. This is not from the IARP. This is from Pat Forty. In a decision announced Wednesday, don't know where it was announced from, the NCAA's independent accountability review process led to a downgrade in the severity of the 5 Level 1 allegations against the program, ultimately judging this a Level 2 case. The independent resolutions panel gave Kansas a 3-year probation with no effect on the program's postseason status. Head coach Bill Self, who was initially charged with a Level 1 violation and was suspended for 4 games last season, was instead charged with a Level 3 violation and no additional penalties. Assistant coach Curtis Townsend, who was suspended 4 games last year as well, also had his charges reduced from Level 1 to a Level 2 and a Level 3 violation with no additional penalties. Neither coach faces a show cause order, which could have been applicable for Level 1 violation. The ruling closes multiple chapters in the long-running saga and then goes on to talk about it all stemming from 2017 there.
Does it talk about any scholarship or recruiting, or it's got to be some sort of that doesn't have to be, but typically there's like some sort of financial.
The KU blogs are catching on to that. I'm seeing.
I just hit Control F and started typing the word scholarship, and it does not appear.
You can do that?
I can. I love a little Control F, search the whole article. Here, I'll give you the last paragraph here, just as the summary from 40. The KU has this because he's had it for a while, it appears.
Yeah.
Case in point, the Kansas infractions hearing in front of the independent resolution panel was held in mid-April. Nearly 6 months later, there finally is a ruling, and it frees the Jayhawks to move on unencumbered in their pursuit of another national championship.
Yeah, I mean, the part of what we were talking about to end the previous hour was, if this was through the NCAA infractions committee, I think KU would have 1, if not 2, postseason bans that would be levied, and it would have already come down by now. KU might, preseason number 1 this year. Like, this is a stacked team, and now everything's behind them. They move on. Anything about vacated wins or anything?
No.
Good point. I guess I should have. I think it would have been in the lead. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing about anything being vacated. Just again, my understanding just through this sort of the as it's called in the industry. Don't laugh, Mick. The nut graph. It looks like they're taking time served and everything being downgraded from the Level 1 allegations down to a Level 2 case, which seems to me like that encompasses everything. And again, Self and Townsend's Level 1 violations were downgraded as well.
I mean, typically there's like an official release, like from the NCAA.
Very odd.
Like this is what we've, given KU. This is our response. This is our official Like, I don't know, does the IRP have a website? Because NCAA.org is typically where those things would be listed, and there's nothing coming up from that at all. In fact, the latest thing with NCAA.org right now is the addressing sports wagering. So it's the latest thing, and that was from yesterday. NCAA launches first sports wagering e-learning module.
Yeah, all we got right now looks like just this on SI.com.
All right. So there you go. Boy, if they avoid vacated wins too, then the whole thing about then they could just keep the banner up and not even care.
What have we talked about for 6 years and gotten less out of?
They could hang a second banner.
Might as well. The second banner would just be a middle finger to the NCAA. Sorry for those that are on the camera there.
No, good for those on the camera. You got a new meme if you're watching on Twitter.
I apologize about that.
You hit the nail on the head earlier when you were like, well, this is what's going to happen. They're going to come down with these rulings, and everybody else is going to be like, wait, that's it?
That's it?
I can hear it now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it? Hold on. Of course they got away unscathed.
Or do you think like the Missouri fans or K-State fans or the Big 12 fans, the rivals of KU, has it just been so long that nobody cares anymore?
I think there's an element of like just get
whatever,
this whole thing over with, man. Who cares?
We've been talking about this for 6 years. It's like Avatar 2. Like it's James Cameron for 6 years telling us, no, this is coming soon, and then it came out and I did not see it, and I'm not going
the Fletch
to.
sequel, I believe.
Yeah. Again, the Chiefs had only beaten the Broncos 3 times in a row when the NCAA came out and had the playbook, or the FBI came out and had the playbook. Only 3 games. They're going for 16 tomorrow night.
In their defense, that they got the playbook. It was on an iPad. Nobody had the right cable for it. It was like an older iPad. They were going to order a charger. It just took them a while to get it plugged in. They had to get the passcode.
I love the KC Sports Network put out a lot of things that didn't exist the last time the Broncos beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Now I want to see like which one of these didn't exist when the FBI case opened up on September of 2017.
Easy,
yeah. So like the list they have here, Disney Plus didn't exist last time the Broncos beat the Chiefs. Fortnite, Game of Thrones Season 6 hadn't come out. Adele hadn't released Hello. The iPhone 7 hadn't come out yet. AirPods, Stranger Things, TikTok wasn't invented yet.
So I'm doing a story tomorrow for our pregame show.
Sorry.
You still going?
No. I'm sorry if I ruined it.
No, you didn't. It's similar to that. It's Chiefs streak numbers. So 15 in a row, right?
Yeah.
I've got a number that pertains to the streak from every number from 1 to 15. So we're going to run it down. 1. What do you think 1 is?
Golden rings.
Kind of like that. I'll start at 1.
Okay.
Number of World Series the Royals have won since the last time Denver won.
Okay, so each number is something that has happened that many times. Okay, I'm on the game
something
now.
like that.
Okay. Yep.
So, because the Royals won 2 weeks before the first game of the winning streak. So, since the last time Denver won, the Royals have won a World Series. 2
Super Bowls for the Chiefs.
Had been a good one.
That's also
but I have a better one.
Okay.
But are they all sports related? Or
Yes. No.
Okay.
But this one is.
This one is. I'm not sure.
know.
Sites for New Royal Stadium.
The number of hands Patrick Mahomes has used passing the football against Denver.
Love it. That's good. I like that one a lot.
3.
The number of sites for a new stadium -1.
This is not sports related.
Oh, 3.
I'm gonna need to keep calibrating down this list a little bit to really fine tune what you're going for.
3 things that have happened.
United States related.
Oh,
3
they've
presidents.
Had, they've had 3 presidents.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. They're in the streak. 3 presidents.
Okay.
4. This is a tough one. The one I went with tough. 4 months the streak has existed in. What 4 have the Chiefs beaten the Broncos in?
Probably September. That's an early one, but
no.
Never September.
October,
okay.
November, December,
then I've got.
January?
Then I think I've got it.
The last September game was Denver's last win.
Last win. Yeah.
Keep them down the schedule. Back half the schedule.
Yep,
Keep them
that's
there.
right. That's right.
5. And the Chiefs have had only 1.
Different Super Bowl champions.
Is
that's not enough,
No,
probably,
no.
right?
5 during the streak, and the Chiefs have had only 1.
5 different MVPs in the NFL? No, that wouldn't be
Very
it.
opposite of that.
5
teams with the number 1 overall pick. That doesn't
think easier than that.
Okay, all right. That's too many. Not enough teams for that either.
I don't know.
Head coaches.
The Broncos have had 5 head coaches.
Oh my gosh.
Holy bleep!
Chiefs had 1.
Wow. Yeah.
6 is the number of wins left to break Miami's NFL record of 20 in a row.
Okay.
Over the Bills.
Over the Bills, wow.
Thank you for giving us that one.
Yes, that's yeah.
7 wins in Kansas City, which means there have been how many wins in Denver?
I think that's
13, 12,
10.
10.
Nailed it.
8.
8. Because there have been no neutral.
15, right? 15.
Yes.
8. Okay. 8. Okay, so there's how many one-score games? Maybe just give it away.
8.
How many two-score games? How many 3? How many 4?
9, 10, 11. 9, 10, 11. I don't know that.
There's 8 one-score games of the 15.
Okay.
How many
multi-score games? Is it
2-score, 3-score, 4-score?
Well, we're up to 9, but that doesn't. The math doesn't work
No,
there.
there'd be 8
like
one-score games. So the
so
other
there
7
might be 2
How's the
3-score
breakdown?
games.
Yes. And how many?
Or
3?
well, there was a really lopsided game. I'm going to say at least one 4-score game.
There's one 4-score game. So of the 6 left,
that was 4-score and 7 years ago. Actually,
That's
it's been forever.
they've had 3 2-score games and
years.
3 3-score games.
But a lot of close games in this series.
9. We all have one of these
9 times they
on our
missed,
person right now.
missed school. 9 times. 9 times.
I might be looking at one right now.
Phones.
9
New iPhones?
Generations of iPhones.
Holy
There's been like 30
bleep.
different iPhones. If you get the Max
Sure,
and everything,
sure,
right?
sure.
9
new
generations.
generations of iPhones.
This is 10 is 10 for Denver and 2 for KC.
10 different starting quarterbacks.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And 2 for Casey. Nailed it.
2
I got
for
one.
Casey.
It's 1 for me. It's 0 for Josh.
I think I got one early.
All right.
Nope.
Okay, 11. This has to do with Mahomes.
From Stranger Things
And
was not a
Stranger
character
Things.
yet.
Yep, that's right. Wasn't
Covered
exist.
that one.
11 postseason wins.
No, within the streak.
What was the hint again?
It has to do with Mahomes.
Yeah, 11.
Ankle sprains.
Games he started against the Broncos.
Yeah,
How many has he finished?
10? Well, no. Hold on.
Well, 11. Then that would be.
Do you mean took the final snap in?
Yep.
So was there a blowout? Was there?
9?
Right. There was a blowout and a knee blowout.
knee.
No,
Yeah.
no, that was 2 blowouts.
2 blowouts.
John Elway's diaper, so it was 3 blowouts.
Number 12 is if you round up the average margin of victory for the Chiefs.
It's 12?
It's 12. It's
Ooh.
like 11 point something.
No, but
I needed a 12.
You needed a 12. You got
So
there.
if you round up.
You got there. You got the 12.
13 is the age of Felix Enudike Uzama when the streak started.
Amazing.
I thought maybe that was the age of him now.
Fantastic.
Only
He was
21 now.
He was the youngest in the draft.
21 now. 14 seasons of Survivor
Oh, wow.
that have been released in less than 8 years, which is
That
it's
rules.
odd.
Jeff Probst out here getting it done.
15.
Job for life. It's like a Supreme Court justice.
Is 15 the number of Patrick Mahomes?
There it is. Self-explanatory. Nice
Beautiful.
job.
2-0.
I think it might have been at least 2-1.
2-0.
I don't know.
2-0, Josh.
It's nice to let Jason win every once in a while.
Take that. Well, you
will.
know what? When Todd gets back and we do Fact or Fiction, and I lose that one, we'll be back to normal. We'll be back to normal. All right, so let's take a timeout. We'll come back. And turns out that there I don't want to report that there's no additional penalties for KU, but I haven't seen anything yet to where there are additional penalties
That's what
levied
Pat Forty is
to
reporting.
KU other than what they already self-imposed, which was the recruiting restrictions of 3 scholarships and the 4-game suspension for both Bill Self and Curtis Townsend. Those have already been served. So we'll take a timeout. We'll come back and try to find any more information with this that we can. More Zone next. 913-912-4810. I will say the big win, if there is one for this, is that nothing's vacated, according to all the information there. So KU will still have more wins than Kentucky right now, because that was the part, because Sylvia DeSouza retroactively deemed ineligible would take 15 wins away from Kansas. It would drop them 7 wins behind Kentucky then. And in theory, in the NCAA rule books, it would snap their 33 straight NCAA tournament appearances. But it's not what's happening here.
Real quick here, I don't know if this is new information, just a different summary from Jeff Goodman just tweeted out.
Okay.
Bill Self started this process being charged with 5 level 1 violations and ended it with just 1 level 3 violation.
Yeah.
So that's how Jeff Goodman kind of has it all funneling
Well,
down.
is that Bill Self as the head coach of the program that got deemed 5 level 1 violations, and then he specifically is only 1 level 1? That's interesting.
I'm just reading from people who know more than I do at this point. So I don't know. I can't answer.
Come on, I want you
anything.
then to get into the details of what Jeff Goodman tweeted. I want you to then explain in greater detail Jeff Goodman's report.
Jason, if I could explain the NCAA or the IARP, I would be wealthy for some reason that I could not currently comprehend.
Yeah.
This is
so
impossible.
Play boys to men for the IARP, right? So hard to say goodbye. They're done.
They are gone.
That's their last act.
How will you remember the IARP era?
I still don't know what it stands for.
I'll remember
independent something.
Assessment
I read it.
responsibility
I read it
panel.
5 minutes ago,
Actually,
and I have also forgotten.
I actually don't know it. I was just
I've read it
making
a
that up.
million times, and I can't remember.
I was just
Independent
making-
accountability review process.
Review process.
Nailed it.
Responsibility panel.
Yep,
Nailed it.
we got one of those right. One of
All
those
right.
words.
Independent. Nailed it. Got that one right. Yes. I just call it the IRP.
Who was on this panel, by the way? Do we know?
Which word of it
Were
is
there
the least
school
true?
presidents?
Nobody with
nobody affiliations
was
to
it
schools. Or?
Condoleezza Rice at one point, like a
She
part of
was
this
on-
whole thing.
I know she was on the BCS committee for
Yeah,
a while.
she
yeah.
was, but then it was like, oh, we need to get this. But it was, I mean,
Chaired by Condoleezza Rice.
the problem is, like, some of the investigators, like, you got people that weren't involved with the NCAA.
I think
okay,
that
I get it.
absolutely helped KU.
Yeah, 100%.
Because the NCAA has never been logical.
No, the
right?
NCAA was, every single one of the schools would have been given a postseason ban if the NCAA was dealing with this. If this was the NCAA, one, it would already happened. But the postseason ban would be not just for Oklahoma State. It would be LSU, Arizona, Memphis, NC State, Kansas, Louisville, all of them.
Because
would
one
have
of the
been given
biggest
a postseason ban.
One of the biggest arguments was, I always thought, in the favor of Kansas, is declaring Adidas as a booster or not.
Right.
Right? Which shouldn't be, right? Because they give money to all these schools, and same as Nike, you get all this stuff for all these athletes to begin with.
Part of it was Jeff Long agreeing to the NCAA saying that, gosh, was it Gatto or Gasnola? One of the two extras on Home Alone 4. So the Gatto or Gas, one of the two guys that is hanging out with the Katz brothers. It was Gatto or Gasnola.
One of the two Katz brothers.
One of the two was the NCAA had Jeff Long deem him a booster to then get Sylvia DeSouza eligible. So Jeff Long agreed to that, which was one of the sticking points that I really thought KU was going to get hammered by, because you had the IRP going, yeah, your own athletic director said that this guy was a booster. Sorry. For Sylvia DeSouza to be eligible, which was not good strategy, because at the time we talked about it. Like,
ultimately made him ineligible.
Yeah, but to deem him eligible, though, to get him back playing again, because when a player goes through this, you have to deem him ineligible. Then you have to go to the NCAA to say, hey, we would like to get his eligibility back. And the NCAA was like, yeah, but you've got to say that this guy was a booster, and then we'll give him time served already. So he'll be eligible now? Yes, if you agree that Gatto was a booster. Yes. Bill Self was like, what? What did you, for Sylvia? No. So I thought at that point, I'm like, Jeff Long has made some mistakes. That might be the biggest one that he made, because it's hard to say he's not a booster when the AD says, yes, we agree, he's a booster, you jackass. But no, the IRP is like, look, we're done, man. We're done. We're all going away. Who gives a bleep? They're allowed to do this now.
Well, there's an interesting
time served. Let's all move on.
An interesting take here, and kind of informed by people around him, by Kevin Flaherty, who does great work at 24/7 and CBSSports.com. said he quote tweeted somebody talking about the whole case altogether. He said, I had multiple attorneys suggest that was the biggest advantage KU had in going before the IARP, that it adjudicated cases more in line with what you'd see in a legal proceeding or in a courtroom rather than the NCAA's judge, jury, executioner model. And that thinking about it that way of like, hey, what do we have you on the books for, and how strongly does it feel like this actually needs to be punished? I wish the NCAA would have operated this way for years and years and years before all of this.
But now it's just back to the NCAA now.
But now it feels silly. Right.
So much ammunition for KU haters out there. So let me get this straight.
Yep.
They got in trouble, and so the NCAA then invented this softer panel just for the KU case, and then it went away. Got it. Sure. No, I'm sure it was coincidence and fair.
This is all because Taylor Swift likes the Jayhawks.
Everything's connected.
It's all connected, man.
Damn refs.
Well, and I do wonder if IARP, if they were looking at a legal case, were they looking at it through what can we prove? It doesn't matter what I believe it matters what I can prove. Right. Or is it the NCAA is always preponderance of evidence of more likely to have happened than not? So the NCAA has gone more likely to, well, yes, Bill Self, we believe this. These are the things, yes, this is kind of circumstantial. We believe it happened. IRP is like, yeah, it's circumstantial. We'll give you a level 3 because we can't prove it's a level 1. Like, I do wonder if that's what's going on behind the scenes, that if they're looking at it through more of a legal battle, because I know people have talked about, well, KU's going to sue. I'm like, yeah, KU's going to lose, though. They can sue them all they want, but you're going to go to court, and the court's going to go, okay, so this was in the bylaws? Yeah, okay, and you agreed to be a member institution with these bylaws? Yeah. Okay, have a good day. And it's like Tom Brady when he was suing the NFL. The NFL court case was not about whether Tom Brady deflated footballs. It was about whether or not Roger Goodell could penalize Tom Brady. Yeah. And Tom Brady's a member of the union, which then negotiated on his behalf for the CBA, which included the penalties that Roger Goodell gave down. Sorry, Tom, you're going to serve your suspension. But it is fascinating if this was handled more from the IARP of like, let's view this more from a legalese standpoint than preponderance of evidence, which the NCAA is just sort of willy-nilly like, oh, sure. And then if you take us to court, that's fine because you agreed to be part of a member institution to the bylaws.
And I guess what the roll of the dice with the IARP is that you can't appeal.
Can't appeal.
But I don't know how much of a gamble that was.
Yeah,
in the
right.
end,
I mean,
right?
once you found it.
Who wants to appeal? It's been 6 years already.
Right. Yeah. I mean, well, because you thought it was going to expedite. These people only have to worry about these cases. The NCAA has all this backlog of stuff that they've got to worry about. But the problem was you got people that weren't a part of the NCAA. Then they had to learn the NCAA rules. They had to learn what was legal, what wasn't legal. You know, you have your infractions people with the NCAA, that's their job. That's their life, is infractions. So you don't have to teach them the rule book of what is and is not allowed to then have them go and investigate what is and is not allowed, to then go and have the infractions case in front of the panel to say what is and is not allowed. With the IRP, these are people that have their own jobs. They've got their own life. And now you're teaching them NCAA rules, which a book that is, War and Peace times 2, of all these different small little things. Like,
so IARP heard Memphis, right?
Mm-hmm.
LSU?
Memphis, NC State, Arizona, LSU. Let's see. They had LSU, NC State, Arizona, Kansas, Louisville, and Memphis. Those are the 6. Mm-hmm. Those were
the others have been wrapped up for a while, right?
Yeah, I think May was June was the most recent one. But all of it's sort of gone quietly into the dark night. It's like, oh, this has happened. Okay, cool. We're moving on. We're doing something else because it's nothing big. Like Oklahoma State's came out and it was like, holy bleep, they're getting a postseason ban. Missouri presents hey, we found this ourselves. We just wanted to tell you about this. We found this. Okay, cool. You get a bowl ban. But we could have held this from you. Yeah, no, we appreciate it. Thank you for telling us. We totally encourage you to do this in the future, too. We totally encourage you to do this in the future. Please tell us in the future, too. Yeah, we will. Definitely. We're going to be very honest. Very honest. If you've learned anything from the NCAA, fight. Fight it. Do not give in. Do not go with the whole, well, there's, these mitigating circumstances. No, bleep that. Fight it with everything that you have, because just simply they don't care. They don't care if you told them or not, or told on yourself, or you only had $600 with Oklahoma State. It doesn't matter.
The Mizzou thing is messed up. It's even more messed up that they vacated all their Final Fours. Like that wasn't even.
There's no reason for that.
There are no banners up there.
They took all the banners down.
The maintenance guy went up there with the big scissors.
There are banners. There's 4 Elite 8 banners. Okay, so you watch your mouth.
Real banners.
Those are real banners. Those are real.
I feel if it's
I could put them.
Elite Eight's called pennants, I think. They're not banners.
I think I honestly would accept that.
Do they get a pennant?
Yeah,
yes.
I think you would get a
It's
pennant.
a beach towel, actually.
You know what?
Yeah.
Get a
Elite Eight beach towel.
Those pennants fly forever.
Have a Sweet 16 beach towel, an Elite 8 pennant, and then banners from there on in.
Flags fly forever.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball came in and was like, oh, sorry, Royals. We found out that Wade Davis actually
was a robot.
He was arbitration.
He was not a human.
He actually was
against our bylaws.
He was actually arbitration eligible a year earlier, and we didn't realize that. So every single game he pitched in, we're going to have to vacate those.
Boy.
So that 14 and 15 pennant, those are going to have to come down. So that whole flag, fly forever. It's probably not true.
We got some blood work back, and I guess it's probably doping. It was just ice water in there. It's just ice water in his veins. It seems illegal, so we're going to go ahead and take that banner.
It's unbelievable. Like in Major League Baseball, NFL. Sorry, we actually don't think it was holding on James Bradberry. So we've looked into it. Mm-hmm. We've done some investigating and everything. We talked to Gene Steratore and Bradberry and Juju.
I was going to say you probably don't want to use the MLB because they don't really protect their piece of metal very well when it comes to handing out sanctions and punishments.
Good point. We've done the investigation. We actually think it was a clean play. So we actually think Philly would have gone down and scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to vacate that Super Bowl even though you're up by, even though it was tied and you could have just kicked a field goal. Philly goes and scores a touchdown, and we simulated it 50,000 times. And Philly actually wins more times than
That's only a little more absurd than some of the stuff
right?
has done.
Well, no, there's no winner. There would just be no Super Bowl winner then. Nobody would have won Super Bowl this last year in Arizona.
They go back, they look at this. You know what? This was an illegitimate game because the playing surface was so atrocious. So we're going to replay it. Now, at this point, it's 2023. Better yet, let's give the NFL some time. 8, 9, 10 years in the future, then you bring all those guys back and you replay the game with the same dudes.
And you sprain Mahomes' ankle just to make sure it's fair. Just to make sure it's fair.
He is in the movie Misery.
He's just sitting there. I couldn't remember the name.
Kathy Bates.
Kathy Bates.
Slamming that block of wood.
You actually have to bring Kathy Bates there to Patrick Mahomes' bed, and that has to happen. It's part of it. Sorry, this is just the deal. Louisville and Michigan from 2013.
Yes.
All those players from the Louisville and Michigan team had to get together and play with Kate Upton in the stands that night.
Good. I'm gonna get the rosters here. I want to know. I want to figure out how we think this game would go. This is
which one? Louisville, Michigan.
Louisville, Michigan.
Didn't Michigan have the little redhead dude that went off?
Yeah, it was like a Buzz Allworth or something like that.
It was
but he was the one.
Buzz Aldrin. Yeah,
Buzz Aldrin. Yeah, he was the one that was.
I just want to say Scotty Skiles. Little Scotty Skiles.
He was the one hitting on Kate Upton. That's why I remember Kate Upton being there, is because he was shooting his shot. He was shooting his
literally, and then
he shot his shot in the first half. Louisville had the MOP Luke Hancock and Peyton Siva, and Russ Smith. Russ still bouncing around. Burke's still bouncing around, right?
Okay, that's what I was just trying to look at the group and figure out. Hey, Montrezl Harrell still bouncing around, right? He only had 12 minutes in that game.
Yeah, he was a true freshman.
Young Montrezl Harrell. He's gonna see. That's your killer now when you have to replay that game 10 years later. You got to have a true freshman who found their way to the league.
Yep. Yeah, they had Montrezl.
He's only 29.
Montrezl.
That was 13, right?
Yep.
It was Tim Hardaway's son on
Michigan.
I
think he was. I think that Hardaway Jr.
I saw them upset KU. KU was up by like 10 or something like that. Like 7 minutes left in Dallas.
That was that crazy Burke shot that looked like it sort of like stopped on the rim and sort of bounced in. It was like a glitch in the Matrix, right? Like that ball wasn't supposed to bounce in.
Get Nick Stauskas got back out there again.
Oh, yeah, Stauskas. Yeah.
Sharpshooter.
Yeah.
How about this headline? Celtics bringing on Stauskas after G League tear.
How about it?
That was in March 2022. So
yeah, definitely 2022. Yeah, definitely.
I don't know.
We've talked a lot about vacating wins today for KU to not have to vacate any wins.
All right, so here's the starting lineup.
We had a lot of stuff prepared.
Here's the starting lineup for Michigan. Glenn Robinson, Tim Hardaway, Mitch McGary.
But first two names, wow.
Yeah.
Right?
Right?
It's their sons.
It doesn't say junior. Okay. It just says them. So you got to actually get those guys back. Glenn Robinson, Tim Hardaway, Mitch McGary, Trey Burke, Nick Stauskas, Spike Albrecht was the one who had 17 points in the first half. Karis LeVert.
He ended with 17 points, by the way.
Yes, he did. 17 points in the first half, 17 points for the game. And then Trey Burke, who was...
Trey Burke.
Well, Trey Burke was in foul trouble the first half. And Spike Albrecht went crazy, and then Trey Burke went crazy in the second half. He was awesome.
It should have been Wichita State there, by the way, that jump ball against it.
Probably should have. Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you let a walk-on hit 2 threes.
That's what happens when you let Louisville cheat and play.
Now the dude's nickname is Wichita. Honestly, they call him Wichita. Tim Henderson. They call him Wichita. Louisville's starting lineup, Gorgie Zhang, Peyton Siva, Russ Smith, Shane Bohannon, Wayne Blackshear, and then off the bench was Luke Hancock, the MOP, and Montrezl Harrell. Van Treese is a seldom-used guy, and Tim Henderson, otherwise known as Wichita, who hit back-to-back threes against Wichita
State. Is that the same Final Four that the kid broke his leg in warm-ups?
Kevin Ware?
Ware, yeah.
Yeah, it was in the Elite Eight against Duke in Indianapolis. It wasn't in warm-ups, though. He went to block the shot
during a game.
Live play.
Yep, that's right. And people thought that there was some sort of a terrorist thing going on. Like friends that were there were like, we thought like somebody had sprayed like mace over there. Everybody was running away from it. They didn't know what was going on, and it was because it happened like from me to you in front of the Louisville bench.
It's been 10 years ago.
10 years.
Wow, that's wild. Beyond that.
Yep.
Spring.
I like Michigan in this game. Do you? I like Michigan in this game, right?
In the rematch, you mean?
You're the NBA guy.
So does the NCAA.
No,
you're the NBA guy, right?
Well, I can't live up to Beard's reputation, but no, I think you're right. I don't know, man. You get a little Montrezl Harrell.
Still there.
Can we wait for Montrezl Harrell's ACL surgery to fully heal up there?
LeVert plays, right?
Karis LeVert still plays?
I think he still does.
Yeah, see? So you got Karis LeVert. You got Burke that's still playing somewhere. Robinson, Hardaway. Russ Smith is still Russ Smith, though, so he would fill it up.
I think the best part of this is going to be the guys who did play 12 minutes and now sell insurance or whatever. Like I want to see them now surrounded by like 3 NBA players and a couple of dudes.
Where is Spike Albrecht right now?
Exactly.
That's what I want to know. Is where's Spike Albrecht
right now?
There's
a fantastic 80s movie. It's called The Best of Times. You've seen it, Jason. You have not seen it, Josh.
No chance he's seen it.
You've seen it, though. Robin Williams and Kurt Russell.
Yeah, there's no chance he's seen it.
Right. They played this game in high school. And Robin Williams, the receiver, and at the very last play, Kurt Russell throws it to him. It's a wide-open touchdown pass, and he drops it. Mm-hmm. And so in his hometown, he's known as the man who dropped the ball the rest of his life. So they get everybody back together. They're in their mid-30s, 40s, whatever, and they replay the game. He catches the ball at the end.
Wow. That's beautiful. According to LinkedIn, Spike Albrecht is currently the director of franchise development at Repham Group. REP''M. So I'm guessing that might be
the latest in his Wikipedia was on May 28th, 2021. Albrecht came back to Purdue as a graduate assistant. He started his coaching career. He actually started coaching at Louisville. That's weird. I did not know that. And then he went to Purdue to be a graduate assistant. So there you go. All right, we got to the end of that. All of that for no vacated wins for KU. So then. KU in 2018, we have to go back and play that Villanova game again then, right?
I don't, yeah.
Well, no, because KU lost.
Villanova doesn't
Villanova
want to.
won. That wasn't a vacated victory.
Nobody doesn't want to.
That wasn't a victory. What was the Elite Eight game?
They didn't miss a shot. I was there.
What was that Elite Eight game?
In
18 to get to the Final Four. Oh, my God. Because that's what would have to be played again.
That was Duke.
Oh, the one that rolled
one
around.
Of the best,
yeah.
That was one of the best. That was one of the best games I've ever seen.
Yeah, you got to play that one again.
That was in Omaha, I want to say. Right, Duke, and it was Svi Mikhailuk.
Svi.
He went off offensively.
He didn't go off like running
and
with
then
the basketball
he
in his hands.
Guarded Duke's big guy because KU was kind of down on size at that point and did a great job defensively. What was his name? The big dude for Duke. I can picture him.
Bagley?
Yep.
Marvin
Bagley.
Marvin Bagley.
These
all right, here you go. Starting lineup for that game.
Oh, I could. Oh.
Duke, Grayson Allen, Gary Trent, Marvin Bagley, Trevon Duval, Wendell Carter.
Suns legend, Grayson Allen.
Marcus Bolden and Alex O'Connell came off the bench. And then for KU, Devontae Graham, Malik Newman, Svi.
Newman had just Vick, an unreal postseason.
Doak, Sylvia DeSosa. Oh, he played in that game? And then Marcus Garrett. So there you go. Yeah. Yeah, Newman had 32 in that game.
I think I'll take KU by 4.
Yeah. Grayson Allen only had 12. That was very balanced on Duke. Grayson Allen had 12. Gary Trent had 17. Bagley had 16. Duvall had 20. Wendell Carter had 10.
It was like KU caught a good
And
break.
KU was like Malik Newman, 32. Gerald Vick had 14.
Looks like things decided to break well for Kansas.
After the game, Self said that was the second best win of his career.
Give it a break.
Really?
Yeah. I asked him on the court, where's this rank? He was like, it's number 2. It's right after 08.
Interesting.
So I'm guessing maybe it's number 3 now.
Yeah, it probably would be number 3.
After that comeback in New Orleans.
But then,
Dylan, do you think we should take a break?
But
let's
then,
take a break.
With what was expected, that wouldn't have even existed. So you'd be like, hey, Bill, what's your second best win? You don't even know.
That was.
All right, so there's more information now on the KU. Okay, so now that there's an actual release out there, So all of the conversation we were having, because the reports were put out there about the accepting the penalties of Bill Self and Curtis Townsend and 3 years probation and nothing mentioning vacated wins and KU getting off light and things like that. Well, Matt Norlander finally releasing or putting out a release in the screenshots. Here is from the NCAA or IARP. Kansas shall vacate all regular season and conference tournament wins, records, and participation in which men's basketball student-athlete number 1, DeSouza, competed while ineligible in the 2017-18 academic year. If men's basketball student-athlete number 1 participated in any postseason competition at any time, Kansas' participation in the postseason contest in which the ineligible competition occurred shall be vacated. Individual records related to the men's basketball student-athlete number 1's participation will be vacated. Kansas' records regarding its men's basketball program, as well as the record of the head men's basketball coach, shall be vacated, and all records and all publications in which such records are reported. So there you go. Those wins have been vacated with Silvio DeSouza. So Kansas now technically, according to the NCAA, is behind Kentucky in all-time wins. And I guess the banner would be coming down, but we'll see what the latest is. Bill Self and Travis Goff, and we'll hear from them talking and what their reaction to this might be. But yeah, now that there's an actual report out there, I just don't understand how, if you've got the information.
Buried the lead, Pat 40.
It didn't include the lead.
Give me a break.
If you got the information, and the only thing that's put out by Pat 40 and Jeff Goodman is Curtis Townsend and Bill Self, the penalties have been accepted, and there's a 3-year probation.
And no further penalties
penalties, being discussed. And Matt Norlander saying just then penalties against Kansas in its IARP case. And all of these, and what Matt Norlander releases includes the hearing panel accepted Kansas' self-imposed penalties for head men's basketball coach and chose not to apply any additional penalties. Same thing with Curtis Townsend.
Goodman here, no added penalties to Self or Townsend.
Yeah, but okay, great. What about the
a pretty
added
big
penalties?
one for the school?
Bill Self would say that's an added penalty of losing the 15 wins and the 2018 Final Four. I'd say that would be a penalty for Bill Self.
Well handled, IARP. You nailed it.
Jesus.